Hi guys, welcome to the channel. If you're new here, I'm so happy to have you. Here we have a lot of guests today. We are part of a Discord group, and so we are just doing election not live covers, so to speak. And so we have the candidates here today. We have President Oliva on the left, running for the Democratic Party's ticket for re-election, and on the right side here we have Skylar B. Bennett, who is the Republican nominee trying to win the White House. So this election takes place in 2024. And so, so actually everything in this entire election is all human-based votes. And so the rules are going to be the rules are going to be explained pretty simply. I'm going to go over that with you right now. Of course, I'm not even on it. Okay, anyway, third point. Okay, so whatever candidate wins the most electoral votes for 270, whoever 270 needed to win will win the White House, right? Or win re-election in that case. If the results are tied in a state or a state had no results, which means nobody voted in that given state, that means that that state will be the same result as back in 2020. If the electoral college results end up in a tie, which means 269, 269, and there's more than two candidates on the ticket, which in this case there is not, so it does not apply to this. However, if there's 269 tie, the top two candidates who have the most electoral votes will move on to a ranked choice voting. And if there are only two candidates and the electoral vote results in the tie, whoever wins the popular vote will end up winning. So the popular vote is also important in this election as well. It's not a determining factor unless there is a definitive tie. So in order for any vote to count, you must be verified in Leo Period channel, which I will link in the description below. And he's also with us live today, right now. So hello, everybody. Hi, Fernando. Hi, Joe Biden. Hi, Hi, not New Englander. Diego, of course, Micah, Michael. Just have fun, everybody. Diego, we got Lewis here. We got Leo Period. So this is going to be really fun. It's going to be interactive live channel, but it's going to be talking about whatever comes to mind. There will be a lot of political talk in this thing, but it's going to be a lot of fun. Feel free to participate in the live chat because we will be interacting with you throughout this entire experience and simulation. Again, like I said, this is just a simulation and it's not real. This video is just for entertainment purposes only. So this is all fictional. It is not real. So that is really it. You can see on your screen right here. Let's see if I could pull this up. We have on the screen right here, we have Christopher Oliva, the incumbent president running for re-election, and this is the electoral college map. And here is Skylar B. Bennett, the far-right Republican running to win the White House, and here are all the states. They're in chronological order according to the closing poll time. So you need the 530 electoral votes at stake, you need 270 to win, which is the majority. So the polls have closed, so thank you for that. So we're going to start. So let's just see. So did any of you guys want to start? What do you guys want to talk about? Let's go there.
All right, let's call it. Indiana's going to be Republican.
Why do you say that?
I say that because I know for a fact that guy, Frank Mervan,
Okay,
he used to vote for you. He's that the weirdos guy on Discord.
Okay.
So he's not voting for you, and someone I know voted for being Indiana, so it's going to be Republican.
Okay.
For sure, I think. Because there's not many Indians on Hoosiers on America. Yeah. So Kentucky, that's going to be Democrat, actually.
How do you make that determination?
Because I think that girl Emma Charlotte in Discord, she's from Kentucky. She ran for Kentucky in the Democratic primary. So we're gonna actually see a split between Indiana and Kentucky. Usually both of those are safe Republican states.
Right.
I'd like to add Iowa will be going Republican. That is the home state of B. So that's pretty safe
it's the
to
home
say.
state of B. And I actually, believe it or not, I do believe that Iowa is also going to go to the Republican Party. That is actually the only state that I don't expect to possibly flip. only particularly because she won it back in 2020. We'll go over what that results right now and see what that results was back in 2020 when President Oliva ran back then. Let's see what the results is. Hold on, my apologies. So you can see here that Iowa went to Skylar. That was the only seat that she won. She won 6 electoral votes despite not winning the popular vote at all. And still, even that is impressive. So I definitely do think even Iowa going to a third party when she was running on the ballot, I definitely think Iowa's definitely going to go red again. So I definitely do agree with you guys. Oh wow, yeah, Leo. Okay, so Leo is just validated all the results. So he's going to start putting out the results and data soon. If any of you guys could do me a favor and look into the chat occasionally when I'm not looking, and let me know what Leo is saying. If he's saying that a state has closed and the results is updated, I do have to update the page because it will not it would not update automatically. So yeah. Okay, that's awesome. Let's see. Okay, so what do you guys think about some of your predictions? So let's go over what Diego's predictive network. So this is Diego's prediction for what he expects the leans and the states to go. He said to me that he believed that the gray states are a toss-up, which means it can go either to the Republicans or the Democrats. However, the states that are highlighted in colors in terms of red, he believes they will go to Skylar. And he believes that anything in blue will go to Democratic incumbent President Oliva. So what do you guys say about this map? What do you think?
Wait a second, isn't Diego from Missouri?
Yes, he is.
Oh, okay. I'm finding it odd that he put Missouri as toss-up because I'm pretty sure that voted Republican last time.
I guess you could say I moved.
Ah, well, there you go. To Arkansas.
Oh, so you moved to Arkansas. Okay. Why do you make the sudden move to Arkansas? What was the change that led you to move?
My family's there.
Ah, okay. Well, that's interesting.
Yeah. Arkansas is a nice place, man. Nice place. It's really romantic. I was actually reading Bill Clinton's autobiography, My Life, and like I really want to go to Little Rock because it's kind of like discount Las Vegas.
Oh, really? It's like Las Vegas? I didn't know what Little Rock was. I always thought it was, I'll be honest with you, I'm a little like stubborn. I thought it was about a Little Rock.
Yeah. There's also another place like Hot Springs. That's where all the famous politicians went to gamble. Like even William Jennings Bryan went there, actually.
Really?
That's really interesting. Yeah. Could you believe it? William Jennings Bryan.
Yeah, William Jennings Bryan isn't he the guy who tried to run for the presidency like 3 times in a row and lost every single one? And
Yeah, that's him.
Just about.
That's him.
Just about. Yeah. He didn't get nominated in 1904. So there was like a split in the Democratic Party between the populist wing, which was William Jennings Bryan, and then there was the Bourbon Democrats, which was Grover Cleveland's faction. And then,
Really?
and then William Jennings Bryan lost twice to William McKinley, as you probably know. And then in 1904, the Bourbon Democrats took control of the party. They lost in a landslide, and then William Jennings Bryan ran for the third and last time against Howard Taft. Yeah.
Yes, Howard Taft, and wasn't that the election that gave Howard Taft the presidency, but then ended up losing the presidency 4 years later to Woodrow Wilson, when Theodore Roosevelt ran on the ticket?
Yeah, exactly.
Who the hell is calling? Someone calling from our group right now.
Disconnected.
You guys all got a call?
Someone just called me.
Yeah. Who is? Oh, okay. So who called? Are you guys confused on how to join the live chat or the live stream? Okay. Well, I'm gonna hang up. Anyway, so I don't know exactly who called, but anyway. So yeah, so that's interesting. I didn't really know that about him at all. I knew that. Okay, so let's talk about this. Let's go here. So, out of all your possible presidents that could have been president, who is your most favorite one, or the one that you would have liked to be president but lost?
I'll let someone else answer.
Okay. Oh, Jonah Cole. Okay. Thank you, Biden. Yeah, I feel that. So,
I think.
well, sorry, wait, any of you guys talking? I'm sorry. Yeah, so like I guess for me, I'll go because I want to be able to give you guys some time to before you participate. Oh, yeah, she's in. I see why you called. She was not in the
So
chat.
sorry
Hi,
about that.
Joanna. Hi, Joanna. I don't know how to pronounce your name. My apologies. I'm gonna call you John. Okay, so the question that we were all asking before, I apologize, is who is your person that you would have liked to have been president but never been president? So one person here in the group chat said, or in the live chat, excuse me, said Ben Franklin, obviously. Okay, so if you said Ben Franklin, Wiggler Wednesday, why do you say Ben Franklin? But I'm really curious to see why you believe Ben Franklin was one that you prefer to become president but never to actually be president. I mean, for me, I feel like my go-to president, or what should have been president, should have been Alexander Hamilton. You guys, any of you guys have thoughts on that? Okay, we'll move on.
Look, yeah, look. I don't really have a strong opinion on the founding fathers, but I'd say that, for the most part, if there's like some sort of wing I belong to, like I really like John Quincy Adams onwards. Like he's probably one of my like most favorite presidents because he's like super intelligent. The guy spoke 7 languages fluently, including Russian, which is super important. Like no one done that in the Cold War. And I feel like he was definitely maybe even top 10 material because they say he struck a corrupt bargain, but the guy he actually negotiated with, Henry Clay, they actually agreed on a lot of policies, both domestic and abroad. So there was like an ideological coalition. It wasn't more so about just signing a deal with someone to get into power for the sake of it.
Bro, Boone is commenting.
Oh my gosh, it's Boone.
Hello, Boone. How are you? Going back to what you were saying, I find that to be really interesting because you were saying a lot of facts that even I never even knew about John Quincy Adams. I always thought he was like some sort of corrupted politician who, was elected on the premise that even if you won the popular vote, you wouldn't necessarily win the presidency per the House of Representatives. So I guess that really was the only time in American history where no candidate reached the threshold needed to win the White House outright, and it went straight to the House of Representatives. I always thought like any sort of situation where that resulted in automatically meant that the individual was corrupt. And also note as well, I also been known to really think that older back in the old days, there was a lot of corruption going on. Not saying that there's not corruption now, but I feel like there is like this differentiation between like time frames, like me being here in the physical and witnessing the corruption within our own government now feels like it's more modern, whereas like you go into the far past, you see the corruption, you're like, oh, everything there is corrupt, but you don't really get to see the full picture because you actually never lived there. And I guess in a way, like you said, I must have misjudged Adam. I know you didn't really say that directly, but based on what you said, I definitely did.
Nah, because like John Quincy Adams is George W. Bush, but in inverse. So basically, George W. Bush is the bad Bush, relatively speaking.
Right.
But John Quincy Adams' father is the bad Adams because he's the one who put the Sedition Act and who was like strong on federalism. Not saying that John Quincy Adams wasn't a federalist, but he actually had a good foreign policy, which is super important for America, even in 1828.
Yeah, I know, absolutely. I definitely agree that foreign policy was definitely a major cornerstone for the United States, especially considering the fact that the U.S. was in the midst of a second revolution or coming out of it, and America really has not really seen any sort of peacetime, even like for majority of its birth. Because America's only had really necessarily, if you do the math here, America only really had 18 years of peacetime over the entire 247-year history in the United States. Actually, don't quote me on that. I think it might be 249 currently, but I'm not exactly sure 100%.
Yeah, that's a pretty good point. Actually, let's update the map because apparently, yeah.
Okay, so I
B
just
won a
got
few states. Yeah.
I just got a
He won a
new
few
state.
states.
So let's
Yeah.
see. Let's see. Is it gonna update? Okay.
Our
I hate when this
presidential
happens.
results, yeah.
It's gonna keep doing that, I guess. Okay,
Oh,
so
Kentucky was called
interesting. Okay,
Republican. That's
interesting.
very
So
interesting.
she won. Let's see. Is it like full 100% reporting? It is. So, okay, interesting. I did not know that. I did not expect that at all. So she really targeted Indiana and Kentucky, which is interesting, to say the least. We're going to
That's
make that
basically
production
every
right now.
Republican election.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting to see how the map is really going to look. So we can now project that Skylar beat Bennett will win 11 electoral votes in the state of Indiana with 100% reporting. In the state of Kentucky with 8 electoral votes, Skylar beat Bennett will also flip that state and win 8 electoral votes from 4 years ago. So Skylar Bennett has flipped 2 states already into her column. The question is, how many more states will she flip? So, what do you guys say about this right now? Now, what is your opinion on the idea that Skylar managed to flip so many states so quickly just at the beginning? Now, obviously, it had the Republican history, but it did. Indiana was very competitive back 4 years ago when President Oliva became president, and so with Kentucky. Kentucky also flipped blue. So, what is your opinion on this? I'm curious to see how these flipped. Does anyone have any opinions on this?
Yeah, I mean, I understand why Indiana flipped like that because obviously the drop in support for you, President, because obviously there was a huge anti-Chris vote, and part of that anti-Chris vote turned to be Frank Mervyn, who's the most prominent Democrat in Leo Peridot from Indiana.
Right. Well, I never really necessarily expected to win. Anyone who's watching right now, I'm President Oliva, but I never necessarily expected to win Indiana. Indiana was one of those states that I never really contested in, only particularly because I knew that it was going to be one of those states that I was going to automatically lose, and I did not even try to remotely contest that state.
I'm not really surprised. Yeah, this happens mostly every time.
Right. I mean, it's not surprising either because Donald Trump did win Indiana and Kentucky 8 years ago.
But Kentucky to lose it, I mean, look at the vote. It's what 37% for you and 63% for Bennett. That shows that 3 people must have voted in Kentucky.
Yeah. So
that's a lot of
okay,
people in Kentucky.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I only got 1,000 votes. That's really bad. Only 1,000 votes in Indiana. Yike.
Yeah,
And then Kentucky, I would say was more competitive, but it's not that competitive. It kind of seemed on par with the result that you would normally expect when Donald Trump versus Joe Biden back in 2016. I definitely find this to be really interesting nonetheless, but definitely 100%. I really lost Indiana. Like I lost every vote in Indiana.
Leo's saying that no one voted in Kentucky, so it reverts back to 2020.
Interesting.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and check the chat.
Oh, the ghosts from the past.
That's interesting. Okay, so it goes based on the past. All right.
Reagan has come back to haunt you.
I want to ask you, how many votes were thrown out because they were not necessarily verified? I'm really curious to see how many of those were thrown out. Because I know that we had, if based on what you say here on the website, or not the website, the Discord server, you say that there was 72 people who voted, which had a turnout of 23%. How many of those votes were invalidated? Mike, Boone has a message for you. He wants to know if you miss him.
I'll just say to Boone that unfortunately it looks like you're going to lose for the second straight time in a row. That's the amusing thing.
Oh, you want to know I forgot to put in the background and I completely botched.
He thinks 5 weren't valid.
What?
5 weren't valid.
That's not too bad.
Okay. I forgot to put this in the background, so I'm going to make this loud, so let me know if it's loud. Can you guys hear it, but like lightly?
Lightly.
Yeah, barely.
Does it sound good like this at this level, or is it too high?
Nah, I think we're good.
Okay.
It's inspirational.
I figured it'd make it feel more like realistic, and that's of course the one thing I forgot to add. I think there were like 5 that were invalid in total. Okay, that's not bad. Okay, so about 68 maybe people voted that were validated. So that's interesting.
Yeah, why do I feel like low-key depressed that there's still only a 23% turnout from a Discord group? I don't know if that's typical or not, and compared to
Well, I don't know
That's the
exactly
highest
how
so
he
far.
gets the turnout result. That's something I'm really interested in. Like, how did he determine the turnout rate? And
I
like,
guess number of people in the server to the people who voted.
yeah, that's true. Now, I want to also know how the hell she got. Okay, that makes more sense. She got 1 million. I was wondering why she had like 4 million in the popular vote, like in 2 states, but it makes sense. I checked the data. 72 voted, 307 verified members. Okay, that makes more sense. So you were doing it based off that. So Leo, is that like technically you just said it was like 23% turnout? Does that mean that you equate that to the popular vote as well? So like just say 23% nationwide voted in the Leo Pure server. Does that mean just say for this example, there's 3 million votes in the state of North Dakota? Right? And just say, a candidate wins a certain percentage of states. Do you take 23% of that popular vote that from the most recent election and apply that, then divide it accordingly to the percentages that the candidates won in that state? Is that how it works? Okay, so you guys want to answer the question for John? Because he is wondering why I lost Indiana. Because you guys explained a lot better than me.
I guess you have a lot of Republicans in Indiana.
Yeah, a lot of Republicans did not like me, including the Democrats in Indiana. So that's done.
No.
I actually know who voted in Indiana. Leo's saying there's only one person who voted. I know who it is.
Well, he's
Mike?
told you who it was. It was John Christian. Only one voted. Who's Christian?
Ah, he's a guy in the chat.
Oh, I didn't even know that. Okay, that makes more sense now. Only one person voted Indiana, but didn't you say that there was like more than 2 people voting in Indiana though?
I mean, there should be 3 people voting in Indiana, assuming full turnout, but 2
Mike,
of them are
Boone called you an
Republican.
election cheater.
Cheated?
Boone, let me tell you something. If you actually cheated this election, it wouldn't even be close. But the problem is you can't keep your mouth shut.
Oh.
Well, Boone. Well, I feel like Boone. I wouldn't be surprised if he tried to like maneuver this election, but like we said, we enacted the Voting Rights Act of 2024 with voter ID and Discord, so it should be verified. So hopefully, the results are valid. I mean, it's really interesting to say the least. Honestly, let's take a look at some of you guys' prediction that you guys sent me, and let's talk about that. Let's talk about some of the prediction that you guys said to me. Let's see if we are on par. So, for Diego, you are correct. Indiana did go Republican, so you are right in that in making your calculation. Although I think, why do you think it was likely and not 100% solid. I want to know why you picked that.
Well,
Was it? I mean,
it was
depends what
just
shading.
a gut feeling.
What?
It was a gut feeling.
Right. That makes sense. Okay, are you guys reading the chat right now? Like, okay, so I'm gonna post it for everybody who's watching but not following the chat here. So
Lee says New Jersey
You guys
is
are
coming
actually
soon.
laughing at me. You guys are actually laughing at me. What the heck?
Okay, I'm not going to answer the second question because that is not true. That is only the candidate and actually not in reality. So anyone watching this on the channel, this is not real. This is all fictional. Okay, this is all fictional.
Boone, say family friendly.
Family friendly only. Like I said, Boone, this is safe for works only. So please keep it safe for work only. So.
Not the
Okay, I'll just say that I don't know for sure if the president is involved with that. I mean, he's role playing like that, but is he actually
Like
involved
that,
with
but
that?
I'm
I don't
definitely
know.
not involved in that. No.
Okay,
Trust me, I'll
that's
probably
okay.
make a lot of money off of it, but I'm not in it. Hello,
So,
hi. Are you new
hey
here?
guys.
I never
Hey,
seen you
Cheese It.
before.
Nice to see you, huh?
I think he ran in the last Republican primary.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
Hi.
that better man.
Huh.
He was better man, better person.
Oh well, sometimes I don't even know. Like sometimes it's like so hard to like know exactly who's who because like everybody had a different YouTube thumbnail or excuse me username than the actual Discord server, so it's sometimes hard to know exactly who's who.
Yeah.
You know. But going back to Indiana, why do you put it in the likely column and not the solid column? Did you think that it was going to be a little bit more competitive?
I didn't really think there were really going to be much Republicans who would vote in Indiana.
Right.
I thought it was going to be like
vote? Like out of
a
all
good
the
amount, but not a landslide amount.
right. Well, that was definitely a landslide. I'll give you that. I got slaughtered in Indiana.
You know, it's kind of funny actually because Indiana is more important than Nevada. Like just strictly talking about electoral votes.
Oh yeah,
Not saying
absolutely.
that the swing vote, but yeah.
Oh, that's a swing vote for sure. I think the higher up, like the thing is too. I think a lot of people forget too. Is like the way it works on other Discords is like you have the non-person vote and you have the human vote, and both of them are contractually together to give you the result. In this aspect, it's all human vote only, and that's what's really interesting. What?
No, I wanted to actually go back to one question. Diego, who would you like to be president out of all the failed presidential nominees?
Out of all the failed presidential, it's a hard question. Maybe Bob Dole. Maybe.
Bob Dole? Okay.
Interesting.
He actually turned out okay, Bob Dole, in the end. He's actually pretty decent Republican. I think even most Democrats would agree that Bob Dole was a really solid character
Yeah.
in '96.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Why do you say that? Because I feel like when you take note of some of the notable characters, well, not characters, notable presidential nominees who never actually became president, some of them are like kind of left behind, like almost in the dust. Like Hillary Clinton, her name is definitely going to be a well-known character going far into the historical books and into history. A lot of people are going to be learning about her running as the first major presidential party bid. But when it comes to Bob Dole, all you really know about Bob Dole is she lost the election by a landslide. So, exactly, would you like to emphasize why Bob Dole and like why you chose him out of any of the candidates? Like, what makes him stand out to you and to stand out the other? Like, is there any sort of fact that led you to picking him?
Well, I think he was really decent. He wasn't really like that extreme, but not really too moderate either. Like down the line.
Oh, looks like you won Florida, Chris.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Sorry,
Okay.
I
Diego,
thought.
to cut you
Okay,
off.
I was off.
So let's take a look. Let's see.
Yeah, I was off too. Whew.
Oh, so the result did not update yet. So I guess that was a
Well,
joke.
Boone's trolling.
Of course, you did. Of course, you did. Well, you know what? So whenever we see whether or not a seat is called, Leo's going to let us know when there's a new projection. So I guess we'll just wait for Leo and not anybody else.
Well,
Don't listen to anyone but Leo.
I'll take this opportunity to ask this. What do y'all think would be a couple of really cool upset states? I know there's a lot of toss-ups, but I'm just curious. I'm too new to know, but
About what episode?
episode of what?
Like, what were you talking about? You were talking about an episode, and I missed the other part. My apologies.
Oh, no, my bad. No, I'm just talking about what y'all think would be some cool upset states for this, like things you would definitely not see coming.
California.
Cali. Ooh, okay.
Nah.
I would say California only particularly because I did try to compete for California. I tried
Hold
to
on.
campaign in there a lot for California.
You got a lot of states called to you.
Wait, what?
You had 5 states called for you.
Oh, snap.
Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, Virginia, and Vermont.
Called already.
Let's go.
Let me see. Okay, let's take a look at the pattern here. So we have Indiana and Kentucky. We have Florida. Where did it come from? Ignore that. I don't know where that came from, so I do apologize. Again, that was a full projection. That is not a real projection to anyone. Not real. So we retract our statement. Skylar B. Bennett won the state of Indiana and Kentucky. That's it. That's all the seats that were called.
Oh, he says he's not done.
Yeah. Wait, but how did he... I want to know how the hell Boo known that there were more states called before even he was finished. Okay, so we can't make the official projection yet. This is still in the lean category, so we cannot make an official projection yet. But wow, that's
That's wild.
Yeah, yeah, that's wild. I know. And I didn't really expect to win Indiana, and I even said it in the other video too. I do very well in the South. I don't know what it is with my character or my persona. I do very well in the South. I don't know if it's because I have some sort of Republican appeal or moderate appeal. But I do very well in the South. No matter the server or Discord server that I'm on and running in, I do very well in the South and the West. I don't really do very well in the Northeast and the Rust Belt. For some reason, those are my 2 regions that I don't do well in.
Looks like the solid South's coming back home.
Right. You're giving Jimmy Carter, I guess.
Yeah, technically, yeah. I mean, it would be kind of interesting to see if I could recreate the blue wall, the Bible Belt, so to speak.
Not the Bible Belt blue wall. What?
Well, technically, I don't know. I'm not religious at all, so that's really interesting to see that, like, I pull ahead. So right now, Leo, can you confirm whether or not I can make these projections? Are these official yet, or are they still not official?
I'm reloading the
Looks
results.
like it.
I don't want to call this.
I don't know if this is my internet or something.
Okay, so let's take a look at some of the results here before we make any projection until we get a confirmation from Leo. Okay, so Leo did confirm, so we are going to make a couple projections right now. Let's go ahead here. In the state of Florida, with 30 electoral votes, the incumbent president, Oliva, has won the state of Florida with 30 electoral votes. In the state of Georgia, we also hold on to Georgia. That's a flip from 2020. You also flipped the state of Georgia with 16 electoral votes. That's going into the incumbent category. In the state of South Carolina with 9 electoral votes, the incumbent president also wins here in South Carolina. In the state of Vermont with 3 electoral votes, the incumbent president Oliva has also won his 3 electoral votes. And in the state of Virginia with 13 electoral votes at stake here, the incumbent president has won the state of Virginia. So we made those final calls here. Right now, we can now project that who's in the lead. President Oliva is in the lead right now with 71 electoral votes to the Republican candidate Skylar B. Bennett with 19 electoral votes at stake. President Oliva leads right now in the popular vote with 74.6% of the popular vote to Skylar B. Bennett, 25.4% of the popular vote. So, what are your thoughts on this? Like, now that we get the confirmation here that me as the incumbent president is winning the South, what do you think the rest of the map is going to start looking like? Any thoughts here?
I never expected Florida to go blue because that's where the running mate of B home state is, basically.
Right. And what that makes sense. And do you think that, also note as well, like Skylar Bennett, running mate, also wasn't very active. Do you think that might have tanked Skylar's bid in Florida?
Maybe. Or it could be a
Maybe.
strategic move to dump
Yeah, I need
votes
to the electoral
in
vote.
high
And I
counting.
campaigned hard in that.
Gosh, I didn't know
So-
there were any Democrats in Florida left. I mean, they're losing in Delray Beach, for God's sake.
They probably went to Indiana. That's probably where they ended up voting. They probably didn't vote in Florida. You know what I mean? They probably voted in Indiana. That's probably why I lost it by 100%. You know. Lewis said, "Wow, I expected Florida was going to be a Republican state." Interesting. Yeah,
Lewis.
I really knew I was going to hold Florida. I just knew in my gut that Florida wasn't going to be one of those states that was going to be an upset. If anything, I thought there was going to be more so California, just because of it being 54 electoral votes. I expected California to be the toss-up. If anything, we really probably might not know whether or not who the president is going to be until California. Do you guys agree, or do you guys think we might know who the president is before the Mississippi River is filled out?
I think if you win Texas, as I predict, I think you'll win Texas because you won Texas last time.
Texas.
Yes.
Okay.
And in which case, that would be game over.
Right.
I talked to some Republicans.
Excuse me?
They're gonna focus on voting Texas, so they won't let that happen again.
Right.
But only time will tell.
Hope
do you think that
for your
even
sake.
possible too, like even if like the Republicans load up Texas, like you said, do you think also as well that's taking states away from other areas?
Yeah,
Like
definitely.
States?
I think that's
now, like this is the past election too. This is when I ran for the first time as president. As all of you guys who known, I've been running in the presidency, even on YouTube here. Some of you guys are familiar. Unfortunately, I lost the state of Kentucky. However, I really badly lost in Indiana, but I did hold on to Florida nonetheless. So I definitely did expect to hold on to Florida. The one state I think in this election where I ran in was the big shocker to me was losing New York. For some reason, I had it in my head that New York was going to be won by me. I was going to win New York. I was surprised by California, Oregon, Washington, Texas, and Florida. Those were not on my board. This time they are.
You know how Donald Reagan left our server?
Yes.
He actually, I think he voted in Florida last time. He still would have won Florida even if he voted in this election.
Matt Gaetz and Reagan are gone.
Yeah. That proved the difference in Florida.
That's a big difference. Actually, do you want to go over the results in Florida for this election? You want to go over the results in Florida from 2020 when I first ran? I could do the comparison between the two.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so in the state of Florida, I won. Oop, where the hell is that? Where is Florida? Can you guys see Florida?
Under Kentucky.
I'll just go up a bit.
That is so bad. I should have known that. Okay, so I won Florida. Yeah, I won Florida with only 42.9% of the vote. And this had like major third parties too. Yeah. So I won Florida with a commanding majority with 42.9% of the vote. Let's see how I did now. This is the Republican primary. So let's see how I did in Florida. So I actually won 8 million votes in Florida. I won 75% of Florida's popular vote in Florida. That's a big lopside in Florida. So I won 8 million votes in Florida. That's like insane. And then in Georgia, I won with 100% of the popular vote in the state of Georgia. I won 100% in South Carolina. Vermont was actually competitive, but it's actually on par with 2020 data. So I assume nobody voted in Vermont just based on how that looked alone. I also won Virginia with 100% of the vote there as well. So I find that to be really interesting. Like, what do you guys think about the data that me having landslides in some of these states? Now, do you think that is going to dictate the popular vote? Like, who do you think is going to win the popular vote based on how the trajectory going tonight?
I think that Chris is gonna win the popular vote due to the high percentage of the servers that are liberal. So that's my prediction.
And why do you think it's more liberal leaning, considering the fact that Republicans seem to be more enthusiastic about voting than a lot of Democrats? Do you think they decided to stay home and then come out last minute and vote in this general election? Or do you think that a lot of Republicans really came out and voted for the Democratic Party as a protest vote against Skylar B. Bennett? What do you think in terms of Skylar? Let's hold that thought for 1 second. We do have more results reporting right now, so we are going to report that right now. Okay, so we can make more projections here.
Ooh, one Ohio.
I want Ohio, yeah. So I'm Obama. Yay!
Hey.
Except for Indiana.
All of my predictions are failing.
Well, I don't know. I didn't expect the map to look like this, but it does seem to be that I'm winning the southeast of the East Coast here, the south of the East Coast, and potentially maybe me winning Ohio might indicate that I might win the rest of the West South states. What do you guys think? You guys think I might carry Indiana, Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania? What's your thoughts?
No, I don't think you're going to win Pennsylvania, for sure. It was
So you
just...
don't think I'm going to win Pennsylvania?
Swing states are going to be targeted.
Interesting. So we are going to make the projections here now. We're going to call North Carolina and Ohio. It seems to be 100% in, so we're going to call those states right now. Let's see. Bear with me, people. Okay. So we can now project that President Oliva will flip the state of North Carolina, win a 16 electoral votes. The incumbent president has flipped the state of North Carolina. He also flipped the state of Ohio with a 17 electoral vote. He had the incumbent president has won here in Ohio, even though he expected to lose. This was a Republican state as far back as 2020. It was competitive in 2020. He had won the state of Ohio outright. So we can make those projections here. Then we are going to go make another projection. We do have a projection for Skylar as well. She has won the state of West Virginia. So we're going to call West Virginia right now with his 4 electoral votes. Skylar B. Bennett has won West Virginia with this 4 electoral votes at stake. Skylar B. Bennett has won West Virginia. So let's go over the data here. So we have here in the state of North Carolina, the incumbent president, me, has won 75% of the vote in North Carolina to 25% of the vote in for the Skylar B. Bennett in North Carolina. In the state of Ohio, however, I won all 100% of the vote in Ohio, which means that probably one person voted. And in West Virginia, it was slightly competitive, but not so competitive. It looked like to me that nobody actually voted in the state of West Virginia. It looked like it was on par with 2020 data. So what do you guys say about Skylar B. Bennett winning, winning the state of West Virginia and me carrying Ohio? Because I'm sure that was an upset. I didn't really expect to carry Ohio.
Can I talk about North Carolina?
You want? Yeah, go ahead. Talk about North Carolina. Go ahead.
So when you ask me, like the Republicans that are protesting against Bennett, or the moderates, I think they're going to vote for you because North Carolina is the home state of Jeffrey Lee, who has just recently came in second place in the primary.
Yes. So let's show that.
So I think moderates are going to vote for Oliva.
And do you think that was the reason why that I won the state of North Carolina is because of Jeffrey Lee?
Yeah.
Interesting. That's an interesting analysis. Do any of you guys agree or disagree with that analysis?
Well, I think...
Excuse me?
No, I just think it's amusing too that Jeffrey Lee actually voted for B in the end. He was
Yeah, I
waffling, but
definitely
he
find
told
it
me he voted
interesting.
for B. Yeah.
I guess he doesn't know his base.
I guess not. I guess he doesn't. Cause honestly, the Democrats also projected him. Like, let's go take a look right now at Let's see. I think this is the result. I think this is where they had it. Let's see. Let's look at the Republican primary exit poll. Let's take a look and see how they were doing. So let's see how Jeffrey Lee. Okay, so Jeffrey Lee, when you come to the data here, I'm gonna zoom out a little bit just so we can see. Okay. Can you guys still see the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so Jeffrey Lee almost lost this Democrat vote by 8%. He was still very competitive. He was getting 47% of the Democratic vote share in the Republican primary, and yet somehow he voted for B. Do you think that might hurt him when he runs for re-election? I mean, runs for election again or runs in the primary? Because he does indicate that he plans to run again. Do you think this might hurt him?
No, I think it benefits him, if anything. Because, I mean, he stayed loyal to the party, similar to Theodore Roosevelt when the mugwumps went to the Democrats in
Interesting.
1884.
Huh. That's an interesting perspective. So you think that the state of North Carolina is going to flip back Republican in the next election? If he was on the ticket?
Yeah, I personally think so.
Okay. And let's take a look. You guys want to take a look at the other exit poll data?
Let's go for it.
Okay, so we have Skylar B. Bennett winning majority of the Republican vote. She won 70% of people voted in for Skylar B. Bennett were identifying themselves as Republican, whereas those who were Jeffrey Lee, only 31% of those identifying themselves as Republican went to Jeffrey Lee. Now, do you consider that Jeffrey Lee in this aspect is considered the Nikki Haley to Skylar B. Bennett? Do you think there's any correlation to do between Donald Trump and Nikki Haley in the Republican primary back in 2016?
Well, the thing about Lee,
Oh, it's not a Discord call. It was live, actually. But
he's a centrist, basically. And he's kind of like Nikki Haley, because he's protesting against B being nominated. And since he's a centrist, Oliva's also a centrist, so I guess his base went to you, like how Nikki Haley voters are probably going to go to Biden.
Right. Because if you look at the data here, based on what you said, here I was only ahead of Jeffrey Lee by 10 percentage points. But when it comes to Skylar B. Bennett, I trumped her by 42%. 42%. That's pretty bad. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
And what's also bad too, I also think too, is that do you think this outcome would have looked entirely different if the Libertarian candidate hadn't dropped out?
Well, I truly believe that Johnson, if he would have stayed in, then I think he would have won by a landslide.
Interesting. And why do you think Johnson would have won by a landslide? Do you think the incumbent president and the Republicans would have been competitive at all?
Oliva would have won by a landslide if Johnson stayed in.
So how do you think this election is going to go then? Do you think, but based on that notion, do you think it's going to be quite competitive now?
Well, I just saw, I would say that B would have a less chance of winning. I would say he's still in the race.
Okay. And do you think, as of right now, before we make the big poll closing, because right now Leo is currently going through all that data. I think there's like 19 states to call, so there's going to be a lot of data to go through. But do you think at any point in time that Skylar still has a chance at the presidency, or you think it's going to be foregone by the next closing time?
I don't exactly quite know yet.
Well, if the Republicans win both Texas and California, anything's possible.
That is true. That is true. And you think the only way that we're going to know is whether or not a candidate is going to be reelected is until they reach the threshold of 270?
In this election, I think so. Given the fact that a lot of the places where people aren't voting, they're going to revert to the 2020 outcome, and a lot of those states are obviously Republican because Republicans win more states on the map electorally.
Interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting too. But also note as well is that, like, even in those circumstances, a lot of those states that they win have low electoral vote shares. So even then, do you think she would still have enough to be able to reach 270? Just to say that I hold on to the state of Texas and California and New York and flip New York, do you think she has enough to get to 270, or you think it's too early to make that call?
I think it's interesting because the loss of Florida, you can counteract that with Pennsylvania somewhat. Not to the same extent, but because Pennsylvania has 19 electoral votes, Florida has 30, so it's a net loss of 11 for the Republicans.
That's true, and they also flipped Indiana, so technically, if they flip Pennsylvania, that's basically like them getting back what they lost. But then again, the Republicans never really won Florida since Donald Trump was on the ticket. So then again, it's not surprising. So technically, did they lose Florida? Or did they already had it lost and they just never been able to flip it?
Indeed.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Because I'm thinking like, okay, so at the next election too, because I know Leo said he's going to change the way the next election goes. It's not going to be like this anymore. It's going to be really based on the popular vote, technically. I'm going to let Leo explain it more because I really still, to be honest with you, I am still confused about how he's going to do it. But he did say it's going to be based on whoever wins the popular vote. So technically, in this case, if me winning, just say hypothetically in this scenario here, 70% of the popular vote, I would become the president of the United States. So technically, he will be doing away with the electoral college and will be adopting the United States into a popular vote system. And he said it's going to be based on margins, which I don't know exactly how that's going to play out. He said he's going to be using the 2020 result off of that, so that's going to be really interesting. Now, I want to ask all of you guys. There's been a question that's been on my mind for quite a while now. As you all know, that Leo Piodot is using the data from 2020. Now, we are in a presidential year, right? We are going into a next presidential election. So the next election that's going to happen is still going to have the data of 2020. But going into 2024, do you think if just say Joe Biden wins by a bigger margin, that even a Democrat who might be a terrible candidate running in Leo Piodot's favor might still have an edge?
What did you say, Diego?
What did you say, Diego?
I think maybe he went offline. AFK.
He probably went offline. Maybe he lagged for a bit. I think it's just really me and you talking at this point. Because I don't think anyone else is participating.
Oh no, I'm here. I just don't have much to say at this point. I'm too new for this.
Okay, it's okay.
Well, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you for coming. Well, you can always say whatever. Like, you don't necessarily have to feel like you have to talk about what we're talking about. You can instigate and talk about whatever you want. Really, like I said, this is supposed to have fun. Like, you don't really need to talk about any of this stuff. You can just say, "Hey guys, what's your favorite ice cream?" Or stuff like that.
Gotcha. Well, I think you're raising a lot of really interesting questions, and it's just, I mean, I'm enjoying listening to the discussion as such.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I enjoy it too with you guys, and I do appreciate all of you guys for coming today. I do appreciate that because this is exactly what I imagine. Like, I imagine a panel of people talking about the results, going over the data, just having fun, and just talking about whatever it is that possibly comes to our mind, even if it have nothing to do with the results. But in the end, as long as we're having fun, that's all that matters.
For sure. I guess this is kind of this Discord simulation is almost like a tiny example of some of the issues that we're facing, like IRL, with voter turnout specifically. So I'm wondering if this new change to voting with the popular vote could be better incentive for increasing voter turnout in the Discord for the next election. I'm curious about that.
Yeah, I'm curious about that too because, like, it's interesting because, like, the approval rating. Let's go over the approval rating because I think the approval rating is going to be a very good indicator come the next election. I've been trying to tell Leo keep all this data from even the past election that we did and this election. Because this election is going to allow us to start a polling group and kind of get a better understanding. Okay, how is the next group of candidates who are going to run in the next election? How they're going to perform based on how I perform tonight. The same thing for Skylar.
Mm-hmm.
Look at my approval rating. I'm just as good as I was back in March of 28 to 30. And I did what to call it? Excuse me. I did what to call it? The State of the Union address. Right, I didn't think anyone was going to like it based off the initial approvals. A lot of initial approvals. A lot of people said that they thought it was very weak. They didn't think it was very strong. Some people said that it was strong, but there was a clear distinction that a lot of people who were voting in those polls felt that the State of the Union was weak. And then come the last poll, it went up from 48% to me only leading against Skylar on April 15th to the 18th, only leading in terms of approval by 9%. Excuse me, that's not Skylar, to disapprove. Only by 9%. And then right after I did the State of the Union, the last vote, the last approval rating poll that came out on April 19th, which is just 2 days ago, I was ahead by 44%. That's a big jump. Do you think by any chance that the State of the Union had an impact, even if the polls didn't say that?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, I think this probably points out to at least one idea that I have is just like people having quiet support and not saying here or there about anything on the polls, but just know that they're going to come out and support whenever the time is coming. Something that you'll probably see a lot in this election, outside of the simulation, is just but I definitely think that your address contributed to reinforcing a lot of what you're seeing in this approval rate.
Right. And I definitely do agree with that. I do agree with that statement too. I think that's really interesting. I do know that Mike Shepard is saying something. So let's sell the one. Okay. I'm not going to entertain this. So we're not going to entertain that.
All right. Can I say something for the record?
Go ahead.
What I done in terms of like last time in the first election is that there was going to be a worse landslide for Donald Regan and Diego. So I got like 10 people to vote for them. And because I got 10 people to vote for them last time, I chatted up those same people to vote for me this time. And they call it election rigging, but really what all I did was innovate the process by which people actually campaign within the server. So before, people would just campaign within the server and just write text messages and let's fire up the base. So what I do instead is that I just DM campaign them asking for their votes. And then I got like a list of people, around 10 to 20 people who voted me, because that's how you can secure turnout, as you're saying, Jonah.
Yeah. It's like your modern way of door-to-door almost.
Exactly. It's retail politics on Discord. Because I know my politics, like... my politics, like I'm a moderate Republican on economic issues. Like I'm obviously socially conservative. But you don't fire up the base by being a moderate.
No.
Like that's partly the reason why Jeffrey Lee didn't get the nomination in the end. Neither did I.
Right.
So if you can't fire up the base, you need to find other ways for people to vote for you, and that includes retail politics.
Correct. And it sounds...
to me, can I interject for a second?
By all means, go ahead.
What, Mike, was that you speaking?
Yeah, that was Jonah just now, but yeah, we're having a discussion, me and Jonah, yeah.
Because if you look at the data here, we had right. You are right. At the census, you actually don't win. I'm gonna look at the two data here for the GOP, and I thought at first for some reason I thought Mike Shepard was also a census, but I forgot that he was actually to the right. So necessarily, it would make sense why he was competitive in the primary until he, for some reason, dropped out and endorsed Jeffrey Lee. The centrist was. Do you guys think that might have really hurt Jeffrey Lee in the end, not in terms of the Republican primary, but in terms of the fact that by having a certain name and dropping out for somebody, let's say for example, Mike Shepard being the one to win a lot of those states and then drop out, Do you think that also favored Bennett in terms of the voting and be able to reach the threshold needed in order to win the state delegates? And also, the second question to that is, do you also believe that because Mike dropped out, it made it easier for Jeffrey Lee to obviously lead and be able to really be very competitive? But because Mike Shepard was that candidate that everyone was coalescing around, because he dropped out, do you think he dropped out for the wrong reason? And that might have been the reason why Skylar wasn't able to consolidate some of the Republican base the way that maybe Mike Shepard would be able to, or Jeffrey Lee? Oh, no, that was a lot. That was a mouthful. I was trying to tell where I was landing there.
Yeah, I'm still processing that one.
Yeah, me too. I'm like, okay, what was the first question now? So I guess I forgot the first question, so let's just go with the second one.
Mm.
I know Mike said that he'll be right back, so this is the perfect time to stay. Think about it before he comes. I think sure Mike would like to contribute and be able to say his piece on whether or not he thinks endorsing Jeffrey Lee for the presidency over Skylar B. Bennett might have hurt her when it came to electorally, or like her vote, or his vote.
Mike definitely had some controversy around him, especially with the election fraud crisis. So there could be a chance that people may have stopped voting Lee. I don't really know for sure.
Interesting. And do you also think that, like, recently, earlier today during the voting, Jeffrey Lee had, publicly said multiple times that there should be a stay-at-home vote or people refusing to vote? Do you think that might have also hurt Skylar's ability to be able to coalesce Republican support? Because it's clear that Jeffrey Lee did not endorse her for the presidency even up until when people were voting. Do you think that might be shown here tonight, that might have hurt her in the polls and also in terms of the election?
Yeah, if you can't unite your party behind you or can't get your party to vote you, then you will have quite a hard time winning this election.
Right, especially against an incumbent like me who has 70% in terms of approval. Do you think that also does do some sort of damage? Because technically, yes, me running against a centrist makes the race highly competitive, but I still have the edge regardless of what happened. Do you think that, just say my approval rating was kind of like where Joe Biden's approval rating is around 43%? Do you think I would be winning any of these states tonight, or do you think this would have been a red tsunami?
A red tsunami?
I don't know about that. Not so far.
Do you think, like, just say, okay, so let's ask this then. Because of the scandal that were involved, whether or not, Mike Shepard, did what he did, and the scandal revolving around that, because I'm not accusing him of anything, do you think that he would have won the election as a Republican? Do you think he would have been able to be competitive with me? I have definitely consider, like, out of the topmost candidates who are more similar to Donald Trump, I would consider that to be Mike Shepard and also Skylar B. Bennett, only because Skylar B. Bennett seemed to have that Republican support when it comes to the exit polling, but when it comes to the candidate as the individual in terms of personality, charisma, I would put that towards Mike Shepard because he was able to really oil up the machine and get his voters to turn out for him only. Do you think that also might have gave him the edge, regardless of the scandals that plagued him?
Well, it sounds like from what you're saying, and since I'm too new, I can't say too much, but that he's able to rally on a stronger note than maybe B did. And in which case, I would say probably, we might have seen a stronger, support thus far at this part of the election. But I mean, I can't say. I'll leave it to the others here to put in their 2 cents.
Right. Do any of you guys have any more to add to that?
I'm still thinking about it.
It's okay. You can keep thinking about it. That's absolutely fine. Absolutely okay. So I'm gonna take a quick look. So while we're waiting, allowing you to like just think and just have peace and time to yourself, I'm gonna see if we have the active polling data right now for the what's it called, for the results for the general. Let's see. Okay, no, it's not updated. So this is where we'll find more data. We'll talk more about this. It'll be really interesting to see who polled more support from where. So let's talk about this. Since the data is not here, let's talk about the data. While you're so thinking about Mike Shepard, I'll give you some time to think on that and how you want to respond. But going here, in terms of the election data here, how do you think this is going to look?
Well, I'll tell you this. I didn't know there was an exit poll. I must have missed that.
Yeah, I didn't see an exit poll when I was voting.
Yeah, so the exit poll was just added. I spoke to Leah about it. I was like, oh, you should actually do an exit poll data. It would be kind of cool to kind of see where the support was coming from, because this would be important data for kind of going forward into the next election. Whose base they need to replicate and whose base they need to destroy in order to replicate and coalesce their base around them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea too.
Excuse me?
I mean, I voted early, so yeah, I didn't get the exit poll.
Well, if you want, I could show you the Republican exit poll just to kind of get an idea on how you might think this might look. Let's go through the data. Let's do that. So we have Skylar B. Bennett. She wins the Democrats with 8% in the popular vote. I mean, in terms of percentages wise, to Jeffrey Lee, 47. In terms of Republicans, Skylar B. Bennett gets 69% of the vote to Jeffrey Lee only receiving 31%. The Libertarian went full support behind Skylar. In terms of the Green Party, though, they went the opposite way and supported Jeffrey Lee with 100%. That's the only high margin he has here. In terms of the Independent, they went to Skylar, which is really interesting. They just voted Skylar. They didn't pick Jeffrey Lee. In terms of the female vote, 67% went to Skylar and 33% went to Jeffrey Lee. In terms of the male vote, it was highly competitive. It was almost 50-50. Jeffrey Lee wins this one by 2%, and Skylar B. Bennett only gets 49%. In terms of those who identified it in other, I don't know what that means. That was no data from there. From those age range between 13 to 17-year-olds, Skylar B. Bennett wins them with 67% over Jeffrey Lee winning owning 33%. When it comes to those who are older than, it's more competitive for Jeffrey Lee. 48% of them vote for Jeffrey Lee over Skylar Bennett, who has 52%. Now, in terms of the LGBT community, because it is very large in this Discord server, Skylar, despite being far right, gets a astounding 64% of the vote of the LGBT, to Jeffrey Lee only receiving 36%. And when it comes to the heterosexual or those who identify as straight, it is straight up even. So what are your thoughts on this data here? And also, to note as well, do you think the woman vote also had an effect on Skylar's ability to win, considering the fact that a lot of people, for some reason, kept thinking that Skylar was a female, including myself? I'm a victim of thinking he's a female, even though it was actually a guy. And he never even once said that he was a female. For some reason, we associated B with a female. Do you think that might have helped him in the vote for women?
Yeah, maybe. Like female voters in 2016, most of them voted Hillary on the fact that she was a woman, and the fact of having the first female president excited them.
Well, I think we're looking at why this is so fun on a simulation, because it just changes so much in its own kind of like social psychology way. But yes, Leo, please post the results.
Yeah, post the results, because it'll be really interesting to see the exit data, because that will allow us to kind of get an understanding, okay, how this state's going to go and how is this election going. That'd be really interesting too. But looking at the exit data, I think there are some shockers here. I think the LGBT was the major shocker one. The Independent supporting Skylar instead of Jeffrey Lee, who was more centrist. Do you think because Jeffrey Lee aligns himself with somebody who, I'm not saying that accusing Mike at all, but just in terms of the Discourse server and the reputation within that server as the role-play candidate that he was role-playing as, and aligning himself with Mike, do you think, even though Mike was able to give him that immediate boost and the delegate boost in the Republican primary here, do you think that also ended up hurting him when it comes to his ability to win independents? So let's take a look at the GOP primary. So you can kind of see here, like, only Lee outright only won a few seats, but Mike delegated all of his delegates to Jeffrey Lee. And so it made it very competitive. We actually didn't know who was going to be the nominee until Maryland. That's very late. We knew who the nominee was going to be quite easily with me. I won most of my races pretty good, except a few was where there was instances of competitiveness and people voting outside the primary from outside sources. But after the Voting Rights Act of 2024 was passed, it was now restricted to only those with Discord ID and those who are citizens of the Pure United States server were able to vote. And so you can kind of see that this result changed overnight. Do you think that it had the election been open to everybody, regardless of us passing the Voting Rights Act of 2024, do you think that tonight we'll seeing a lot more Republican support, or do you think it would have been more heavily Democratic?
Maybe a bit Democratic.
Why do you think that?
Well, Lee is a moderate, I believe. So maybe Democrats, even though the polls say that B had a slight edge, went with Democrats, probably voted for Lee.
So are you referring to the exit polling data, or are you talking about like in terms of the primary?
The exit poll.
Oh yeah, so you're talking about Skylar winning the Democrat. Skylar won the Democrat vote, but only with 8%. Do you think that would automatically translate into the election, or you think that really hurts his image, in terms of trying to appeal to the far right fringes of the Republican Party, especially the far extremists? Do you think that might have hurt her, and they would have never stayed home? They probably stayed home, especially when Senator Jeffrey Lee told them to stay home. Do you think they stayed home tonight?
Stayed home.
Like, basically, when I say stayed home, like, did not vote. Like, he said, do the protest vote by not voting, was really what Senator Jeffrey Lee said.
I don't think the stay home was really that effective, in my opinion. Like, not much people really cared about it.
Interesting, yeah. No, I don't think a lot of people cared. I mean, he did it. He should have, if he really wanted to get out the stay-at-home vote, he should have easily started campaigning on that issue days before the election, not the day of, when people already know about the election and are already planning to make their voices heard.
Well, and in a group this small, like, people are going to want to stay active somehow if they want to be a part. It's just kind of like, originally I was thinking maybe it would have hurt, but nah. I mean, I got to remember what we're participating in a simulation. Like, people are going to want to stay active. So I think, it is what it is.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I agree with that logic, because I do feel like at times it's a little bit difficult. Like, sometimes, especially when you're a new person, you're coming in and you don't really know the background story. You kind of have to learn as you go, unless you're like an OG. When I say OG, I mean original. For anybody who's watching, it doesn't mean what OG means.
Now, I will say it looks like, from what I know historically in the recent history here with this election, it feels like the Republican vote has been very stratified. And maybe if there's anything to note about who's hurting or who might be hurting in the election or in any part of this process, it probably is because of how spread out everything's been for them.
Right. And do you think, who exactly, excuse me, I don't know why I'm like saying multiple things at once. My brain there.
You posted
Anyway.
the exit poll.
Yeah, exit poll. Yeah. Now, what do you think the exit poll data is going to look like for the presidential? Who do you think is going to win the Democratic exit poll when it comes to the data? When it comes down, who do you think is going to win the most Democrat?
Oliva.
Yeah, same.
And do you think everybody's going to align based on party align? Oh, okay, we got the data here now.
There we go. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so
Boom.
that's
A landslide
yeah.
for Democrats.
So we have
Oh.
here for the Democrats. We're going to go over the results here, if you guys don't mind.
By all means, Diego called it too.
Okay, so we have here Christopher Oliva, the incumbent president, wins the Democratic support with 89% of the vote. What seems to be really on par, if you look at the data here when it comes to the Democratic primary, I win 84.7% of the vote in the Democratic primary. And I easily translated here in the election and actually gain in terms of Democratic support. Well, as when it comes to the Republicans, though, I gained a good sizable chunk. Do you think that might have been Jeffrey Lee voters who would have voted for Jeffrey Lee if this was the election? That instead they chose incumbent President Oliva over Skylar, because Skylar only got 65% of the popular vote when it comes to the Republicans. Do you think that might have hurt Skylar?
Yeah, that 35% was definitely Leave voters.
100%.
I find it interesting, but dare I say that that's not necessarily the case, because if you look at a lot of the new members coming into the server, they don't have any roles associated with them. Even I don't have a role associated to myself. So I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a Libertarian, I'm just my own man.
Well, that's better. And I do want to ask Leo, because Leo is in the server, the live chat here. Leo, I want to ask you, based on what was being said now, how did you determine the results of the exit poll data for those who didn't have a role according to what you were looking for in terms of the exit polling data? Like, how do you do that? Do you put it under the classification as other? And while we're waiting for more information here, we do have Lewis responding. Chris, do you think most of 50% of Republicans did vote for you? No, I really didn't think 50% were going to vote for me. I only really expected kind of like the margin that we see here, 35% over 65%. I definitely did think there was going to be a sizable chunk of Republicans docking to me, but not to the severity that we see here tonight. I really didn't think I was going to be 35. It was kind of like covered around 25, 30%. 35 is impressive. I assume that this is 100% poll, 100% in. That's what I'm taking this as. But then we're going to get confirmation from Leo tonight whether or not this is already the full data or if this is just going to be developing throughout the night. Okay, so here's what Leo said, that this is the data going in as I only did exit polls on those who had these roles. So really what this does seem to me already, based on what Leo just said, is that, okay, this data is what people added the role to, right? But we have undecided voters, which I will classify them undecided in the sense that we really don't know how they're going to vote until we see the result of that state.
Okay.
And how many of those people do you think exist based on them not being reported in the data here?
Well, that's hard to say, I think.
Well, you know what I wanted? Okay, Leo, while it is somewhat annoying you could ask for demographic details, party affiliation in voting form, yeah, that would be a good hedge actually, because you don't have to have people reporting that data. That's like an optional part of the Google form, just in case they don't have roles. And then if they do have roles, you can ascertain their demographics from that instead.
I agree with that. I would be behind that. I did mention that prior. The way he did it was pretty brilliant, but I feel like it would be very time consuming for him as well, because that means that he has to manually go through every single person and look at every single role, and that's more time consuming than just getting the data straight from Google Docs or Google Forms, excuse me. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But I definitely agree with you. I definitely think that would be a move going forward. I think that would definitely be something that should be changed if that is the route that he wants to go. Deviating back to the exit polls here, we do have the Libertarian though. I think the Libertarian was definitely shocking because I got 33%, and to Skylar only getting 67% of the vote here for Bennett, only getting almost the same exact margin as I won for the Republican and the Libertarian. I expected the Libertarian to be more so voting for Skylar by large amount, considering the fact that they really never voted for me in the poll. They were always against me every time when it comes to approval or when it came to the head-to-head mashup between me and Skylar. A lot of Libertarians always voted for Skylar. I find here tonight that seemed to be a shocking data point.
Yeah, so yeah, if Johnson stayed in, then you would have won by a lot.
Yeah, he would have won. I think me and Skylar would have lost the Libertarian vote, and I probably would have lost some of that Republican support, which only seemed to be 11% of Republicans voting for me, which seemed to be on par. I mean, I think it was definitely along partisan lines when it comes to voting Democrat, but when it came to actually, hold on, excuse me, I misread read everything here. My apologies. So for those who voted Democrat, only 11 Democrats voted for Skylar, whereas those who identified themselves as Democrat voted for me. Those who voted identified as Republican, only 35% of them voted for me, whereas 65% only voted for Skylar. I think I misread that, but I also started realizing I think I might have read it right the first time, but I'm not exactly sure. He says here, I don't want to extend the ballot with more questions because that would make people not want to vote. Trust me, I've done this before. I know. You know what? I agree with that. So what we could do possibly, is it possible we could encourage people to add votes themselves on their discretion, so to speak, but it's not a requirement. If they wanted to, they could, and we could just, have candidates campaign on the idea of, okay, add roles to your name, so we can get data points. To kind of like collect data without telling them you're collecting data. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
What are you saying? It's more like a baseline in that comparison?
Yeah. Almost like, oh, listen, like, oh, we advertise. Hey, you can add roles, during voting. Like, hey, you guys got to add roles. It's one of the processes, but you don't have to. It's not like you forcing them to. But hey, listen, you want to be catered to, you want to have your voice heard, add roles is really what we're saying here.
I think that would be interesting, actually.
It would be interesting. Going back to the data here, I don't mean to deviate from the point. We do have here the incumbent president winning 100% of the vote. None of them deviated at any point to Skylar, so I find that to be interesting. So there seemed to be a coalescing of the Green Party support behind me because there was no Green Party candidate. When it comes to the independent, I think that was the most shocking one. I think 67% voting for the Democrats, over 33% voting for Oliva. When you compare that to the Republican Party support, that is entirely lopsided from Skylar winning 100% of the independent support here. And I just find that to be really interesting and quite frankly shocking. What do you guys say to this?
Well, one of the reasons I did blue Alabama because of the last election, it was won by the Green Party candidate, and now it looks like 100% of Green Party voters are going to vote you. So I guess we could expect Alabama to go blue.
So you make that determination, so I could pull it up right here. So yeah, Alabama, 9 electoral votes went to Rachel Collins, the Green Party candidate in 2020. And you believe personally that I will carry that state tonight?
I believe so. There's a high chance.
Yeah.
And do you guys all agree?
Yeah, actually, I do.
Okay. That's interesting. Yeah, I wasn't so sure if I was going to win Alabama. I thought I was going to revert back to the 2020 result. Like, I really didn't think I was going to carry Alabama. Now, I'm not saying that we're confirming here that I won Alabama or not. I'm just saying my personal opinion here. I don't really expect to win Alabama.
Well, sure.
I would like to win Alabama. I would like to win back that Southern Dixie crack type situation. Let's kind of rebuild it up, but in a modified version of where we have new Democrats with new ideology, better ideology than what we had in the past. I would like to build that up. You know what I mean? Instead of being pro-slavery and segregationist, I would like to be pro-Black Americans and just helping everybody in general, regardless of who you are or what you represent. I really would like to show that here tonight. We'll see if that comes to fruition. It seems to be happening, but it's too early in the race to make that determination.
We got new results.
Let's move on to new results.
New results.
We got new results? Okay. Let's see. Before we have the new results, let me just put out what he said. He said here, for the next event, just for everybody here tonight, he said for the next event, you need to at least have one party roll down, just for the primaries. And since there'll be open, semi, and closed primaries. So basically kind of like more of a list 6, or like just say you're a Republican, you're voting in a closed primary, you can only vote in a Republican primary only if it's closed. If you're an independent, you can't vote. If you're a Democrat, you cannot vote. But if it's open, you can vote. Everybody can vote, technically. So it'll be based on party roles and stuff like that. Which would be interesting to see how that's going to be done, because that would really determine a lot of things.
Joe, I think you're muted.
Yeah, you're not. Yeah, let me turn you on. You can't unmute your guest because they chose to mute themselves. Okay, so Joe, here's what you're going to do. You are going to leave the server. Leave the live stream, and then re-enter back in, and make sure you hit allow audio. Okay? And I'll enter you back in, okay? All right, let's take a look. You guys ready for the data?
Let's get it.
All right, let's see what it looks like now.
Show me them results.
Nah.
Oh, okay. Hold on. I really was hoping it was going to show, but I guess.
Oh, okay, it's over, bro.
Oh, yeah.
The race is over.
All right, we got to unpack this.
Yeah,
I'm surprised North Dakota and South Dakota actually went Republican.
Wait, I gotta refill my wine. Hang tight.
Okay, so we're gonna have a lot of states to call. So I am going to take a picture of this. There's no way in hell I'm gonna remember any of this.
Yeah.
Yep, it is over.
New York will put Chris over the line.
Do you think that would be the state that will put me over? Because last time when I won the Democratic primary back in 2020, New York was the state that put me over the threshold in order to become the Democratic nominee. Do you think tonight I will win New York, even though, back then I lost New York by a whopping 75%? Do you think I'm going to win New York tonight? Or you think it's going to go to the Republicans since Abraham Lincoln, who was on the ticket, won that state last time around?
Well, given the fact that, the Roosevelts support you, Chris.
Yeah,
I
both
think for sure you're going to win New York.
My Alabama prediction was right.
Yes, it was.
Yes, it was.
And the Pennsylvania.
What do you say?
And the Pennsylvania prediction made as well. That was solid.
Yeah, that was interesting. Let's pull out some of your report, and then we'll make projections here. Let's show your prediction, guy. Let's see if any of you guys were right. Oops, hold on, let me add Joe in.
I was right about Missouri.
Joe, you have to unmute your mic.
Hey, Texas went Democrat again.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's good for me, And
no, I know someone who voted for you.
Very well in the South.
Oh, yeah.
And you can kind of see that here already, that I do very well in the South. Okay. So, John, it says here that you got disconnected. Are you back in the server? Are you able to hear us and talk and everything?
Bless.
Okay, so Joe, I know you're in the live stream. We cannot hear you. It said that I cannot unmute you. It says here that cannot unmute your guests because they chose to mute themselves. So you have to unmute yourself in order to talk. Now you can talk. Try.
About
Hello, hi.
Joe.
Hi, Joe.
Good to have you.
Welcome.
Okay, so we are going to make the state call. Are you guys ready? We're going to make official state calls here.
Let's go.
But then remind me to post your data in terms of your predictions and polling data. So
Okay.
let's see. So where were we? We called Virginia. We called North Carolina. We called Ohio. We called West Virginia. Okay, so we're going to make a projection in the state of Alabama where there's 9 electoral votes. That is a flip. A Green Party candidate has voted in the state of Alabama for the incumbent president. He has won 9 electoral votes in the state of Alabama, sweeping the South. Okay. In the state of Connecticut, with 7 electoral votes, that is also another flip for the incumbent president with 7 electoral votes. That is going to President Oliva. In the state of Washington, D.C., I believe that is another seat that was called. He's also going to win there with 3 electoral votes. He won it last time. He's going to win it again, continuing the Democratic streak. In the state of Delaware, with 3 electoral votes, President Oliva wins the state of Delaware with 3 electoral votes. In the state of Illinois, with 19 electoral votes, the incumbent president will also carry that state for another election for the Democratic Party. Okay, let's see. We're going to go to the Republicans now. Okay, let's see. Sorry, guys. In the state of Kansas, with a 6 electoral vote, Skylar B. Bennett will win Kansas 6 electoral votes. Is that the only state that was called for her? In the state of Missouri, with its 10 electoral votes, it would also go to Skylar B. Bennett. Skylar B. Bennett will win Missouri's 10 electoral votes. In the state of North Dakota, with its 3 electoral votes, that would go to Skylar B. Bennett with its 3 electoral votes. That is a flip from 2020. A third party candidate won the state last time around. The Republican will go on and win that state. In the state of in the state of South Dakota, with 3 electoral votes, Skylar B. Bennett will win that state with 3 electoral votes. Let's go to Oklahoma. In the state of Tennessee, with 11 electoral votes, that is also another flip into Skylar B. Bennett column. President Oliva had won that state last time around. Tonight, it looks like it's going to go to Skylar B. Bennett. She's going to win 11 electoral votes. That, again, is a flip for Skylar B. Bennett. We do have some more state calls to make, though, for the Democratic president, so we're going to call those states right now. In the state of Texas, with 40 electoral votes, that's a big one, and President Oliva wins Texas 40 electoral votes for the incumbency. He has won this state last time around, and it's going to be growing blue again tonight.
Boom.
So let's go to Michigan, because Michigan is also another big one. In the state of Michigan, where there's 15 electoral votes, it also voted again blue for the second time in a row after voting for Joe Biden in 2016. It is also again voted again tonight blue. Sorry, guys. Okay. Sorry. In the state of Maryland, with 10 electoral votes, that also goes to President Oliva. In the state of Massachusetts, with 11 electoral votes, that also goes to President Oliva. In the state of Maine, with 4 electoral votes, that goes to President Oliva. In the state of New Hampshire, with 4 electoral votes, that also goes to President Oliva. In the state of New Jersey, with 14 electoral votes, that goes to incumbent President Oliva. In the state of Pennsylvania, though, that is a big flip, but it's a hole for the Republican Party. The Republican Party will win Pennsylvania and 19 electoral votes. Skylar B. Bennett will hold on to the state again for the Republican Party. The Republicans will hold Pennsylvania. So what do you guys think about the results today right now? How do you guys feel about the results as it comes in?
Well, B just lost the race.
Oh, he did? Like, the race just updated?
No. I don't think there's a chance he could win now.
To win. And it looks like the path is narrowing. Like, we're going to go over that right now, because we're going to do the results. Okay, so Arkansas with 6 electoral votes goes to Skylar B. Bennett. So she wins 6 electoral votes here. We're going to call that state and make that projection right now.
I'm guessing you voted there, Diego, didn't you?
Oh yeah, I voted.
Okay. Yeah.
And how do you feel about your vote counting tonight for Skylar? Do you think it had any effect on the race? We're going to call the state of Arkansas with the 6 electoral votes. Skylar B. Bennett has won the state of Arkansas with the 6 electoral votes. So what's your thoughts?
Well, this map looks cursed, first of all.
Why do you say cursed?
Well, if you compare it to real elections from like past 8 years, yeah, this looks a bit unorthodox, to say the least.
Do you think this would be like kind of the type of map that you would see in 1980?
Yeah.
If Jimmy Carter was doing as well as I am doing tonight?
Yes, Jimmy Carter. He was popular in the South, so yeah.
And do you think the map would look more similar to, like, you know, what we were expecting, kind of like a mix between 1960, where California goes red and Texas and Florida are blue? I mean, yeah, Texas and Florida are blue, and New York is kind of like that swing state. Do you think we're going to be expecting New York and California to be highly competitive tonight?
I guess we could say so.
And do you think the map would be kind of similar to 1980 if, you know, Jimmy Carter was competitive and 1960 where kind of like the West is red, where the East is more blue?
Well, I think actually Nevada's going to go blue.
And what makes you say that?
I think there was someone from Nevada who said they were going to vote for you. Evander said he was going to vote for you.
Interesting.
Oh, yes, he did. Yes.
They're also a bit more popular with the working class there, I would say.
Yes.
Well, it makes sense, though, because, like, I ran on a union campaign about being pro-union and making a national union nationwide. Do you think tonight that this is showing to be just that that has major implications on people's ability to kind of feel like the government is helping them in a way that they haven't felt for quite some time?
Yeah.
I do apologize if I do stutter. Indiana, I am in trouble. Interesting. The Pennsylvania GOP is actually competent. Yeah, in this election, yes, they are. Because I can't
They
see
won PA.
Pennsylvania twice.
Yeah. It's weird because PA borders New York too, so you should be doing better in PA than the other Rust Belt states.
And like I said, I don't really do that well in the Rust Belt, but Ohio was definitely a big one tonight. I think that was definitely a key indicator that the race was going to be more competitive. Because if I won Ohio, that means I'm winning in areas that you kind of wouldn't be expecting, considering that Ohio voted competitively last time around, but also was pretty solid for President Trump back in 2016.
Okay, here's actually the biggest upset of this map. The biggest upset is actually the Dakotas. Because I know people who voted for you in the Dakotas, and yet you still lost.
Really? Let's take a look at the data. Let's look at that. Yeah, we haven't looked at the data in quite a while, so let's take a look at the data here. So we have here, okay, let's go. So South Carolina, I won with 100% of the vote. When it comes to Vermont, it looked like it went to 2020 results. When it came to Virginia, I won 100%. In North Carolina, 75. Ohio, 100. In West Virginia, it was resorted back to 2020 data. When it came to the state of Alabama, I won it outright. In Connecticut, it was competitive. People voted in the state of Connecticut. In D.C., I won that outright. So somebody voted for me in D.C. When it comes to Delaware, in the state of Delaware, I won 59 to 40, so that resorted back to 2020 data. When it came to Illinois, it must have been a tie because it resorted back to 2020 data here. When it comes to Kansas, it seemed to be highly competitive in Kansas. I don't know if that is 2020 data, if anyone can really let me know that.
It is.
It is? Oh, wow, that's competitive. That's a competitive margin. In terms of Maine, it looked like it resorted back to 2020. When it comes to Maryland, I had a vote there, so it was 100. When it comes to Massachusetts, 68 to 33, that looked like 2020 data. When it comes to Michigan, somebody voted for me in the state of Michigan, so that was one vote, went 100% to me. When it comes to Mississippi, it looked like that was competitive. It looked like it might have been 2 people over 1. So it might have been Mississippi. It could be more people. I don't really know. But it looks to me like it resorted back to 2020 data. It could have been easily a tie. If it's not a tie, it's competitive. And so in terms of majority, though, it's not so much competitive. It looks like it resorted back to 2020 data. When it comes to New Hampshire, it looked like it was actually quite competitive. So I can't tell if this is actually real data or if this is like person vote data. When it comes to
It should be.
excuse
I
me.
think it is. I think it is like because it's a 7%
I have some
margin.
news to report. Carter, aka Donald Reagan, has returned to the server.
Oh, he did?
Yes.
Well, he came late. That's all I have to say. He came late.
Oop.
And now he is ranting about how he was wrong. Right.
I mean,
all
he
along
wasn't
the
wrong. He wasn't wrong. Like, he's just saying what it is. He's not even gloating in B's face directly.
Wait, what were you guys talking about? I'm not exactly sure if I'm catching on.
Okay, so Donald Reagan came back.
Yeah.
And he's basically saying, I expected this.
Wow.
The result, as it is. You winning against being a landslide. Winning.
Do you guys think like this is what like should have happened? Or you think it should have been more competitive? Do you feel like it would have been competitive if Lee was in the race, or do you think it would have still been kind of lopsided for the Democrats?
I think if Lee was because he could have tried to Republican Party.
Thank you. Yeah, do you think the Republican Party is definitely incompetent, especially the fact that they lost two elections in a row? Well, I'm not saying it's not over yet, but they lost two elections almost in a row where they couldn't even coalesce around a candidate 2 times in a row.
Well, I think it again comes to the identity crisis that I mentioned earlier. It seems a little too stratified on their end.
Yeah, I guess we have to try harder next time, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe third time's the charm.
Yeah, well, I do know there's going to be a lot of third-party candidates running in the next election. Do you think that that's going to help and benefit the Republicans, or because based on previous data points that we had back in 2020 when I was on the ballot for the first time, do you think that was so negatively impact the Republicans' ability to coalesce around a base again? Or do you think they're going to have that character, because I'm out of the picture, that they're going to finally have the new candidate that they can coalesce around? Or you think there's still going to be a problem far beyond my presidency?
You know, I honestly think that the Republicans might get beat by a third-party candidate. I actually think that the next president of Leo Peridot, once your term ends, because I'm assuming you're going to win at this stage, because you're right on the precipice of victory, I actually think a third-party candidate's going to come and win the next election, in a contingent election.
And that would be kind of like an upset. That would be the first time a third-party candidate has won since Abraham Lincoln, technically.
I think a Ross Perot type could actually do well if they're protectionist and they also have if they're socially moderate.
Now, do you think if somebody ran off the same platform as the Reform Party as Ross Perot, the candidate, do you think that might be enough to be able to get him or her across the finish line by pretending to be Ross Perot?
So long as they don't drop out of the race, because otherwise, if they drop out of the race, they aren't coming back. That's what Leo told me.
Need to nominate a centrist, to be honest. I guess we could try that next time.
You could try it. I mean, Lee could have been easily picked, but he was not.
Another news.
I think I don't know. I think Lee kind of made a little bit of missteps, particularly when both Skylar and Lee. I think they both made a lot of mishaps, especially when it comes to campaigning. They were not active. So, can any of you guys here today vehemently tell me 5 policy standpoints or any campaign thing that you know that those candidates represent tonight?
Okay, I'm actually going to interject. I'll answer your question. I think that one of the big reasons why Skylar has lost in such a big ways that my base hasn't turned out. Like me and Lee's base just haven't turned out, pure and simple. So I know maybe less than 10 people from my usual 20 that have voted in this election. And I can tell you which states they voted, and they're concentrated mainly in PA. And we just gave them a conscience vote. We told them, guys, you can vote for whoever you like, because we've been telling you guys who to vote for this entire time, and we respect your free will. And this is how we can now pay down our debt, the debt we owe to you guys for voting for us all this time. Go ahead and vote for whoever you feel is going to be the best pick for president.
I have
And
some
they've
news
made their
to share.
decision.
Excuse me?
I have some news to share. Jimmy Carter has announced his candidacy for the next presidential election.
So Jimmy Carter?
Yeah.
So who the hell was Jimmy Carter?
Donald Reagan.
Or Donald Reagan.
Oh! Also, he's playing out that character again?
Well, he hasn't changed his name, so I guess he's going to be Jimmy Carter.
I guess he's trying to replicate my ability. Now, is he running as a Democrat or as a Republican?
Hasn't announced it.
Okay. That's going to be interesting because that will determine whether or not he's going to be able to have Democratic appeal to the South the way that I do. That'll be interesting to see whether or not he can be able to replicate my victory tonight. And also notice, like, it's also going to be a very different ways. Because I even told Leo this, because he's now changing the way the elections work and how everything processes. The data point here tonight will not be 100% accurate for those planning to run after me. Because they won't be able to look at this and say, okay, here is how these states voted. These are the toss-ups. These are how these states are. These are how they voted in the past. These are the states that we target. Well, and that's the case. How exactly do a candidate know what states to target and what states not to target?
Jimmy has said he might run as a Democrat.
Okay. Well, that might be difficult for him considering the fact that, he ran as a far right candidate. Do you think, like, if Jimmy Carter decides to run, excuse me?
Did he run as a far right candidate in this
he
primary?
did.
Maybe
let
he
me
did.
see.
Okay.
Let's take a look.
He did in this one.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard to transition from a far right to a Democrat.
Yeah, because he's far right. And do you think that's definitely going to hurt him and his ability to be able to win the Democratic nomination, considering the fact that he ran on far right policies? Basically, he's going to be considered a flip flopper.
Well, how I think of it. Well, how I
Pardon?
think of it is that if Skylar can go from far left to far right, I think Jimmy can go from far right to centrist. And he can actually run as a conservative Democrat too, if he really wants to. That
is true. Now, the question is, does the base identify himself as conservative, considering that, if he ran as a conservative Democrat, just say when I was running back in 2020, well, if you consider the data, it was an open primary. Now there's going to be a closed primary and semi-closed primary, which means that a lot of those Republicans who would have voted for a conservative Democrat are going to be locked out of the Democratic primary. Do you think that all Democrats, do you think there'll be enough support for him to be able to win the primary without always relying on the Republicans?
Yeah, I actually think no. I think he needs Republican crossover support, but I'm willing to vote for Jimmy to be the Democratic nominee because his social views align with mine. I'm never gonna vote for a Democrat that's more liberal than Joe Manchin. So if Joe Manchin or John Bel Edwards run in a future Democratic primary, I'll cross over and vote for them if I can. But apart from that, I won't vote for any Democrat that's a centrist.
Well, let me ask you this. Leo mentioned here that they need a more centrist Republican. What do you think it would take for a centrist Republican to win for the next election, and how that looks?
Are you asking me?
In general, just I'm referencing Leo's comment.
Well, I think in order for a centrist Republican to necessarily be able to win outright the presidency, I think they're going to need to have a lot of Democratic crossover support, particularly because I'm guaranteed there's going to be at least one far right third party candidate on the ballot come the next election. And I think necessarily they're going to need a lot of crossover support from the Democrats. The question is, will the Democrats defect from the Democratic nominee? That's the question: is who is the Democratic nominee, and whether or not they are very well liked. Because remember, I'll be most likely the outgoing president. So necessarily, it will be really based on the incumbency factor. Is there an incumbent, and does that affect the race? That is something that we haven't seen so far in the survey. So necessarily, when it comes to the centrists, there's going to be a lot of battles for, just say, a centrist Republican to run, because a lot of people are going to say, okay, we're sick and tired. If there's going to be any sort of fatigue in terms of voter fatigue on who is the president and whether or not they want to deviate themselves into another candidate or another pick.
Gotcha.
You know?
And how do you think that would compare with a conservative Democrat candidate?
I think the conservative Democrat candidate, because I think more so likely that a lot of Democrats are more likely back a Democrat who is more conservative than a Republican who is more liberal. And that is particularly because they identify more as along party lines. But now the discourse of everybody's open to any possibility. If they like you and if you are their friend, they're more likely to support you regardless of your political policies and political stances. The question is how far is your popularity going to take you before you hit that end wall where, okay, now your policies and your standpoint is what finishes the race. Is it 25% of popularity that determines the vote, or is it 50% and the other 50% being popularity? The question is that remains is how much of it matters.
I'll pivot and say that if the Republicans were to nominate a centrist, so say you get a Glenn Youngkin type, that would actually make the Democrats look more extreme. Because imagine, like in real life, if Trump picked Youngkin as his VP, and then Youngkin actually hedges him against abortion because he says that, oh, I wanted a common sense 15-week ban, and Jeffrey actually wanted a 15-week ban as one of his policies. And then you look at what the Democrats did in Virginia, and Virginia is sort of like front line on the culture war, actually, because Youngkin won his governorship through fighting culture war issues. And he actually won over a whole bunch of suburban moms who typically vote Democrat nowadays, because a lot of suburban moms, they live for culture. So basically, in the early 2000s, when culture was more Christian, they voted more Republican, because obviously George W. Bush was quote-unquote socially conservative. However, I would argue that George W. Bush wasn't actually socially conservative, because you can't be pro-life and start wars in a different country that end up killing millions of people. That's actually being pro-death, if anything. So I think if you look at it this way in Virginia, you ask for a 15-week ban, and the Democrats want final trimester ban on abortion. So actually, the Democrats in Virginia look more extremist, because the vast majority of people in America actually want late trimester abortions to be banned.
No, I understand that completely.
That was a big take, and I'm processing it.
It's a lot, but also, it's taken me like 5 years to process this. But I agree with that. I think definitely a centrist candidate would be more so, will make the Democrats look more extreme. And I do agree with you on that. However, if we take the data here, and we're going to go back to the data here, because I think the data is very important when it comes to the general election polling data. We have the two centrist candidates against each other, right? It's only 10% different between the two, which means the undecided vote here, who don't identify as a party role, will really be the determining factor, the decision maker, in determining who will be the next president of the United States. So necessarily, if the Democrats elect somebody who's centrist and the Republicans elect somebody who is nominate somebody who's centrist for both political parties, at that point, no one looks extreme, and it really just comes down to party preference or even popularity and who they favor more over the other. What do you think?
In my opinions, I think centrists have a better chance of winning than the other ideologies, because just looking at past elections,
Or you mean past elections as like the previous one that just happened, or you mean like in real life?
Well, real life, kind of both. Like people on the end side of the political spectrums have a lower chance of winning.
Right.
Example with Bennett, because now obviously some Democrats are gonna vote like Bennett because he's a far right, and some centrist Republicans probably wouldn't vote him.
I find that interesting because a centrist, maybe, I guess it calls the question why a centrist Republican candidate has not stayed on the forefront of these elections, and I wonder why. I really do, because I feel like they should be in competitive range.
Mike said people don't like it, but the Republican nominating a female VP does not fire up the base, and it causes suburban women don't change politically unless the culture changes first. So now, are you indicating that Skylar beat Bennett picking Luna as his running mate? Do you think that also damaged him here in the Discord simulation, or you think that also would damage like Donald Trump if he was to pick a woman as the vice president, or both?
I'll be honest. I think actually picking like a female VP can come across as cringe.
Yeah, it's
and that's like very politically incorrect. But
pick me.
Like, yeah, like Anna Paulina, like for instance, like whoever's role playing as her, like there's a huge amount of sex appeal, and it's like similar to Sarah Palin, and like a lot of left-wing liberals don't want to admit this, but a lot of their criticism of Republican women is actually based on sexism, because they actually do expect women. They're all about choice, but they actually expect women to think a certain way. Because that's how they are as a voting bloc, suburban women. They're very culturally dominant. So they follow whatever's the dominant trend in culture. So in the 1980s, it was conservative, but nowadays it's liberal. So of course they're going to go Democrat.
That's true.
We are going to pause.
Based on current
demographics.
On current demographics, men are becoming more conservative and women are becoming more liberal.
Oh, ouch. That's it. Game, set, and match.
Game over.
Christopher Oliva.
Oh, wow. I won. I really did a lot of damage in the popular vote. I won 90 million to 38. And so we're going to make that determination here. We're going to call the race.
Jamie calls.
We're going to continue on the rest of the night until every state is called. But we're going to call the race right now. Oops. Don't know what just happened. I did win New Jersey. President Oliva did win New Jersey. What just happened? A lot more glitchy than I thought. Okay.
Jamie calls Chris winning a happy ending.
President Oliva has won re-election. He will win re-election by a landslide.
Congratulations.
Congrats.
President of the United States. Pardon?
Well done, Chris.
Yes.
Congrats.
Thank you.
GZ.
Yes. So what do you guys think about the map, the way it looks so far? Like, before we do continue though, because I do want to make sure I post this, because nobody's going to know if I don't post it, so we're going to post this now. We're going to release the data for, what to call it?
This might be the biggest landslide in server history.
It might be. I mean, it wouldn't
be maybe
even
in the future.
I mean, I have a history of winning landslides. I don't know why. I just have a history of winning landslides. I won at John Ossoff in another server in the landslide. I won in the previous election of the landslide. This one's a landslide. So I tend to have a history of winning landslides.
This is actually what we call an election juggernaut.
What does that mean?
It's basically someone who, if you put him against most candidates, he wouldn't lose. Or he'll only lose if circumstances screwed him over big time. Like, I'll tell you right now, looking at this map, even if I fully supported Skylar and got my base out to vote, I don't think it would have actually made that much of a difference. It would have made it closer, but you'd still win by quite a bit, by around 70 to 100 electoral votes.
Would you? Was that,
I probably would have ended up winning the popular vote by a convincing lead, despite possibly losing the presidency. But in this case, I don't lose either.
was Barack Obama 2008 considered juggernaut?
Yeah,
No.
100%.
It was?
I mean,
No, I don't think so. It's very mild. I mean, I feel like 2008 was. I don't think 2023 was. I mean, 2012, excuse me.
Yeah. No. I mean, with
it's
Indiana,
actually,
North Carolina,
yeah.
and Florida.
I would love to go through the data. I wonder who's going to win California. That's going to be really interesting. It's not going to make a difference anyway, but we'll see whether or not we still.
I'm seeing that one.
What?
I'm seeing that one.
You want to stay for that one? Yeah, I don't blame you. Because what's it called? So we called the race for the president, right, which is May. We're also going to call the national popular vote. Incumbent President Oliva has won the national popular vote, so he will be reelected while winning a huge majority in the national popular vote. So that is true. We are also going to make 2 projections right now in the Senate and the House. So we do have the votes. 29 people voted in this poll.
There was a Senate election.
We have the Democrats will hold on to the House of they are going to flip the House of Representatives. So we are going to project right now the Democrats have flipped the House of Representatives. Again, like I said, this is only simulated, and this is actually not real. This is not a mock gov. Leo wanted to make sure to emphasize that this is just a poll. The Democrats have flipped the House of Representatives. Here is the margin. It seemed to be on par with the landslide expectancy. Only the Democrats only been able to gain an additional 8 House seats, to the Republicans only losing an additional 8. The Democrats expand upon the already sizable lead with Senator Jeffrey Lee as the Speaker of the House. We do have here, we are going to make another projection now. This is going to be a shocking one, but nonetheless, it is going to be the one that is not unsurprising, but surprising nonetheless. Despite the Republicans losing in a landslide tonight, we're going to project that the Republicans will flip the U.S. Senate. So they have flipped the U.S. Senate, and so here's the margin. It'll be close, but they flipped the seat. They flipped 5 Republican House seats. 5 Republican Senate seats in their favor, and they won back the state Senate. So they have won the Senate. So we can project those. So now, what do you guys think about that result in data? Do you think that aligns with how the election is going, despite me winning a sizable chunk of the electorate? It seems to be that they seem to be voting party line down ballot, but doesn't seem to be voting for Skylar on the top of the ticket.
I think it's
B's offline, so he's gonna come here to a big surprise.
Oh, he's offline. I didn't even know this was happening.
He was offline the whole time.
What? Yeah, I feel so bad. Thank you.
No, sorry guys, I'm laughing because look what Donald Reagan said. He said that, when you have the worst candidate in history, it's easier to have a blue wave. I missed this, honestly.
And why do you? I want to ask you, how do you miss that? Like, do you think the polling were incorrect? Do you think that people were not being truthful when it came to the polls?
Well, to be honest, I always voted for Jeffrey 100%. I was like fully backing Jeffrey until the end. And it's funny when you. Well, I mean, I even got the vote out for him in Maryland, and it came almost good enough. We got 60% of the vote. If we even got one more vote, would have gotten all the delegates in that state.
Right.
And so with my endorsement, I endorsed him only after Indiana. I actually lost one state.
He says
he missed my endorsement.
What he meant by I missed it, it means he missed the Discord server.
Ah, okay.
And a
wish you could be here.
Right.
Micah agreed. I don't know. He agreed to Leo. Yeah, I found it to be really interesting. Do you think that, Maryland would have made the difference had you just got that additional vote? Or do you think it would have just prolonged the inevitable that Lee would have never won the nomination regardless?
Well, it shows that my endorsements are coin flip. They're 50-50. You'll win once, lose once with my endorsement.
And I
And
do also want to mention as well, it's interesting because there was a race simultaneously between me and you, technically, because I was endorsing and running alongside the far right candidate because of election fraud and potential rigging. I was basically backing Skylar against your chosen pick, which was Jeffrey Lee. And it's interesting to see because if a head-to-head matchup between me and you, it would have been just like this. It probably would have been competitive. Some states were 50, some states would be not 50. And I think that's probably how the election would have went had it just been a race between me and you. Do you agree or do you disagree?
yeah, indeed. And I think what really killed me is the fact that other people gave their delegates to Skylar. That really changed the race because I was leading by hundreds of delegates.
Yes, and I
before
made sure
people.
that I'm gonna be honest with you. I did the work. I made sure that they delegated it to Skylar and not to Lee.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I mean, if I was having hundreds of delegates lead going into my holiday, because just for everyone who's listening into this, I had to actually drop out of the race because I went hunting in the woods,
Ooh.
and there where I go, there's no reception, there's no internet,
Oh,
and
yeah.
so I couldn't really trust anyone to be my surrogate to actually DM on behalf of me. I tried to get Donald Regan to do the same for Jeffrey Lee, because Donald Reagan was Jeffrey Lee's VP, or Jimmy Carter, I should say. Jimmy Carter was Jeffrey Lee's VP, and that just didn't work out. Like, obviously, it doesn't have the same connection to my base as I do.
You are like kind of similar to what we would call like and don't take any offense to this. I would probably call you more similar to like what's that guy who was the former Speaker of the House? His name's not coming to me. What's his name again?
Newt Gingrich?
No, the one
Oh.
that just got ousted.
Kevin McCarthy?
Yes, Kevin McCarthy. I feel like you're Kevin McCarthy because he had those connections that lead them to be able to get certain legislation passed. You know what I mean? You're not like Mike Johnson who can't do any of that.
Yeah.
Their
Mike
new
Johnson's
results.
now sending,
So
now
we're
sending
gonna
more
update
aid
the
to Ukraine.
results.
Leo said new results.
Close your eyes, guys.
Okay.
Okay, Nevada.
Nevada,
Okay,
yeah.
Wow.
that was nice.
Interesting.
Ooh.
I knew Utah was going to go Republican because we won it last time and the same guy voted twice.
What do you mean the same guy voted twice?
Oh, no, because like I asked my base who they voted for and there was like one guy from Utah. I'm assuming he's the only guy who voted. Utah is a cool state. I really want to go to Utah, actually. I've been to California and Nevada.
A lot of Mormons in Utah.
Man,
Yeah.
you know how they built Salt Lake City? That's incredible. You can say anything you want about the religion, but how they managed to do that engineering was incredible. Because remember
I
the
don't know anything
Mormons.
about Salt Lake City. I just thought it was just a name.
Yeah, it literally is a city built on a salt lake, and they needed to do stuff like irrigation and engineering to actually make it work because there's no clean water really, in a salt lake. I mean, it's clean, but you need to refresh it to make it clean, yeah? Make it into fresh water.
That's what New York needs to do. Also, I also won Louisiana.
Oh, yeah, I saw.
Louisiana.
The boot.
The boot, yeah.
The boot with the fur.
But it's interesting though too.
Walmart, Italy.
On majority of the Rust Belt, and I'm winning the South, and while winning the Northeast, and I also won the U.S. That I didn't expect. So I'm gonna make some safe projections right now, but there's no way I'm gonna be able to get them all because I'm not gonna remember exactly who got what.
Of course.
But we'll make some projections here.
Oregon goes green.
And I'm not even using it, so we're just gonna roll. I'm just gonna call whatever I see, and I also won Colorado. So in the state of Colorado, it is 10 electoral votes. President Oliva has won the state 10 electoral votes. In the state of Louisiana, that is a flip from 2016. President Oliva has won the state of Louisiana with his 8 electoral votes. In the state of Minnesota, with his 10 electoral votes, President Oliva has won 10 electoral votes. What
happened, Mike?
I know, because that's my home state. Actually, though, Indiana is where I ran in this election.
What's your home state? Minnesota, right?
No, Indiana.
Oh, but your voice sounds so British.
Yeah, I know. I don't really have much of an accent.
Well, you do have an accent. I don't think I have an accent.
You surely do. I hear it, and I know where it's from.
Well, where is it from?
It sounds New York.
Yeah, it is. I'm from New York. Yeah, I'm from New York. You're gonna hear it right now in a second. In the state of New Mexico, with 5 electoral votes, President Oliva has won the state of New Mexico's 5 electoral votes. In the state of New York, with 28 electoral votes, it is a major flip. President Oliva has carried his home state for the first time. He had won the state of New York with his 8 electoral votes. In the state of Wisconsin, with his 10 electoral votes, President Oliva has also carried in the state of Wisconsin. Okay, and then we're going to go to the Republican because the Republican did some damage. So let's take a look at that and see what they did. Okay, so actually, I also won Arizona.
Yeah, I think is that the state that put you over the line? It might as well be, because it's the
No,
most
it didn't
important
because
this week.
Arizona
No?
didn't get
Okay.
called until recently. I think the state that put me over got it being like Texas.
Mm.
No, it wasn't Texas. It got to be like the Rust Belt states.
Okay. Yeah, we can say Wisconsin.
Yeah, I would probably say Wisconsin. Yeah, but it all came out once, so we really didn't know exactly what came first. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you know what's interesting actually is that you might still get 400 electoral votes. I'd say you're the favorite right now to get 400 electoral votes.
Okay, do you guys agree with that?
Alaska for sure.
Yeah.
No, I have no opinion yet. I don't think so.
B
Okay.
is still offline.
Yeah, I feel bad for B. So let's take a look at the polling, like your prediction and how you feel. So how do you feel about this is Diego's prediction? How do you guys feel about Diego's prediction? You think it was spot on? You think it was inaccurate? And what do you
I
think?
was inaccurate.
And why do you say that?
Well, I have eyes, and yeah, it's inaccurate. It was off.
Yeah, I think you're gonna have Indiana, Iowa, and Idaho all called right.
Which is interesting because you got like Florida and Texas going red, and you got North Carolina going red, and so does Georgia. But you also got Minnesota going red. Is it because of Minnesota Mike?
Yeah, probably. Except I didn't vote in Minnesota, did I?
No, you voted Indiana.
Yes, I gotta admit it, Chris. I'm sorry. I mean, I made a pledge to support the Republican nominee.
It's okay.
So my vote went. Yeah.
It's all right. It's all right.
I gave Skylar a consolation prize.
Yes, a consolation prize indeed. So we're gonna go with your prediction now. So you correctly predicted that Texas will go blue, and so did New York. How do you know New York was going to be deep blue, considering the fact that I lost that state by a lot?
Yeah, I think for some reason Boone must be from New York. I'm guessing he's from New York. I never asked him. I'm not in contact with him anymore. But
Leo?
Yeah, with Boone, I know Leo is in New York and he voted for you, so that's already 2 votes for you, president. Right. And then there's also the Roosevelts, 2 of them, so that's already 4 votes. So that's why in my margin I put it as safe. So for everyone who's watching this stream, my margins are as follows: 1 vote is tilt margin, 2 votes is lean margin, 3 votes is likely, and 4 plus is safe. So 4 votes were put on New York. Now Pennsylvania turned out to be a blowout. I was actually surprised so many people voted Republican in Pennsylvania.
So let's take a look in Pennsylvania. I'm really curious to see the result in Pennsylvania, see how that pairs up to your predictions.
I got the margin incorrect by a really large margin.
Okay. So that was 80% over 20.
Yeah, I know like maybe 3 or 4 people online who are from Pennsylvania, and they all voted for Skylar.
And how many people are those? Out of curiosity, I'm wondering like the percentage wise.
Okay, Leo has said new results. B has won California.
Oh!
What? You won California?
No way. Are you serious?
That's no way. I told you this looks very similar to the 60.
Yeah, this map has got to be cursed.
Wait,
What?
Oh no!
Wait,
He was
hold on.
joking,
He's
man.
wrong.
He was
What?
joking. I knew he was joking.
I didn't.
Nah,
I thought he was.
Leo,
Okay,
Leo,
sometimes
it wasn't
I
me,
honestly
man.
believe that.
Leo was here for the drama. Like he wanted to pipe it up for us, you know.
Yeah, honestly, he was like, "Am I the drama? No, I'm not the drama. Am I the drama?
Leo is
I'm
the moment.
drama."
Leo is his sign. Yes.
Yes. Well, at least you were right. I did
I
reach
had a
400 electoral votes. How do you guys feel about me having an absolute landslide tonight? Like, this is a blowout. Like, this. I mean, it's similar. I mean, I'm actually surprised how I do gotta say this though. I am actually surprised how it didn't look like blue was in North Dakota and it was surrounded by a bunch of red states and it was blue in different areas where it shouldn't be. I'm actually surprised that this theoretically could happen in the right circumstances. Do you think that because there could be a possibility of one of those maps if nobody was partisan?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I see it. I mean, look, it has to be like that because look at the popular vote, 67%. That's 2/3 of the population.
Right. No, that's right. I mean, it's a commencing lead. And it's interesting too because, like, if you look at the data point, like on Leo Pirat Stover, only 20% of people voted for me with mine. So let's take a look actually at the data. Let's see if we can pull up the actual data for the general. Because at the general, you can actually see. So I won 71 to 29%, which means that technically that was replicated on a larger scale when it comes to larger group of people voting with 60 or more people voted in this election, and yet it still seemed to be on par with where the election was between me and Skylar in terms of the polling. Despite it only polling 20 people, it was so accurate. What are your thoughts on polling being a little bit more accurate in this election than normal?
They're the most active people on Discord. That makes sense if they're interacting with the group and, you know, look at the sample sizes on some of those polls. Like when the sample size is above 30, that means you remove population error because the sample is large enough to remove population error. And a lot of those polls had 30 people or more.
Right. No, I agree with that because it makes a lot of sense too. Because I was at one point, okay, I'm either going to win this election or I'm going to lose this election. And it's so funny too because there's been a lot of instances where throughout this entire election, I've been telling Leo I'm not going to run. I'm going to drop out. And tonight, if I had dropped out, we would have never had a blue tsunami or a massive blowout for Skylar. I mean, for me, really.
He's gonna have a heart attack when he wakes up.
What are you saying?
He's gonna have a heart attack when he wakes up.
Yeah, he's gonna have a hard time. Now, do you think that so because a lot of you guys are Republicans, how do you guys feel about the result as a Republican? And for those of you guys who voted for Skylar, how do you feel about the result tonight? Are you happy? Like, what are your emotions?
Very mixed emotions.
Okay, why do you say that?
Well,
Thank you. I appreciate that, Mike.
Really?
I think it's very
He
cathartic,
was
actually.
probably going to be.
Yeah.
I knew Oliva
What?
in the end.
Doris, yes, I won Texas. I won the election. I won Texas. But I really wanted a landslide. I tell Leo, you're manifesting a landslide. This is how it's going to go. We're going to get a landslide. This is the way it's going to go. And did it. But I do want to ask you, because I know you cut off in terms of audio-wise. You said that you had mixed emotions about how the election went tonight. Why do you feel mixed?
Well, part of me knew that this was going to happen, really. So I was just preparing. But on the good side, this was a very fun event.
Yeah, it was definitely fun. I definitely had a lot of fun times with you guys, and I definitely look forward to continuing that forward. Do you
Well,
guys think? Excuse me, I'm sorry.
I cut you off. Go ahead, please.
No, it's okay. No, you go first.
Well, I guess I just hope that I don't know. I feel like the Republican side. I hope Republicans can just take these election results and kind of strategize around that moving forward. I mean, I'm too new in terms of how this whole process has. I came in like near the 75 percentile mark, but I don't know. I just hope that these results can be taken and moving forward. Strategies can be placed for stronger candidates in the next election because as speaking to Diego, feeling disappointed, like I'd hate that, but I hope it's also encouragement to find new ways around it.
Right. And do you think that there's going to be a hard, like, okay, so for the Republican Party as Skylar, let's say Skylar was to run again, do you think he's going to have a hard time getting any sort of Republican
100%.
Mm-hmm.
100%.
Sorry, I don't
Yeah,
know.
well, how do I feel about it? I feel very cathartic actually, because I've sort of preyed on it personally, and
Why do
when
you
I think
pray?
about it, yeah, well, I preyed on it because I actually wanted to make a decision on who I was going to support in the end, and I didn't really support anyone. I told my base to stay at home, and I half-heartedly gave some support to Skylar, as was my promise as part of the Republican primary. And now that I've prayed on it, I see that there was no way that Chris was ever going to lose, in my opinion, because he's a great political operator. He's really, really smart in that regard. He's not perfect. You've made mistakes, Chris, admittedly. I mean, people didn't really bring up, you split the Democratic Party the first time, with Job Kid. He was the presumptive nominee, and then you overtook him. But that being said, you've built connections, you're in multiple servers, you know how to manage your time correctly, because you're working two jobs, so you absolutely deserve to win. There's no
Thank you.
question about it.
That was
It
very
is what
kind
it
of you.
is.
And it's interesting because when I won the first election, I did it all on the back of actually campaigning in real life. I actually did not. I was not a part of any other servers except Leo Puridat. I was actually out there campaigning for people, like in real life, to just vote for me. And so it was very interesting to see like how that translated in that election compared to this one where it was just Leo Puridat. I wasn't sure if I was going to win this election on the basis that I asked people from outside to vote for me for a Discord server that doesn't have any effect on their life.
Yeah, I mean, I done the same in the first election too. Like, I got 10 votes for Diego and Donald. It would have been even a worse landslide. It would have looked something like this. Not really, that's exaggeration because of the third party
One of the
spoiler.
reasons I believe B lost the election because some people have speculated that he may be a fascist, which may not be true, but if you're associated with that kind of stuff, then yeah, it's gonna ruin your chances of winning. I don't know for sure that he is.
Well, that sucks. I mean, how do you combat that in a Discord setting?
I don't know.
It did.
People say that B wants to take away women's rights. And he never told me he was going to take away women's rights.
Wait, hold on. Are you guys talking about Skylar's platform?
B,
Alaska
B
went
has
Republican.
never.
I'm just
Hey,
gonna
what
show
happened to
everybody
with
on the screen
Nevada?
with the margin board so you guys can kind of pause and watch the margin so you can kind of take a look at it. California was not
Ooh.
close. It probably was a tie. It looks like it was a tie. So it reverted back to 2020 data.
I guess you can count that as a toss-up or tilt D.
Yeah, well, the only thing is we're gonna have to ask Leo for the voting sheet and kind of see, okay, where did people vote and kind of see what states were toss-ups.
I could have actually asked Leo, could I put my vote on Minnesota, even though I ran in the primary in Indiana? Like my home state being Indiana for the primary. Could I have voted in Minnesota, given that my character, Minnesota Mike, is from Minnesota? He won Dean Phillips' house district.
No, it's interesting because I actually voted in Texas for myself, and Leo was like, no, you have to vote for your own state. I'm like, oh, damn it. So you had to delete it. So I had to vote for myself in New York. And so it gave me the win in New York, and I needed New York, but it also, my vote wouldn't have mattered in Texas anyway, because I was going to win Texas no matter what.
Okay, my laptop is going to run out of juice, so I'm going to have to go.
Okay. All right. Man, nice to meet you.
Well, thank you for joining. I do appreciate that. I hope you have fun.
See you.
Bye. God bless.
God bless.
And what's it called? So it's just between us two now. So this is what he was saying in California. He said I got 5 votes, Bennett got 3 votes in California. Is there anything else that you guys want to like talk about in terms of the election? Like, how do you feel like, because the map looks kind of like semi-realistic of what you would expect in terms of a landslide? Thank you, Lois. See you in the next video too. I do want to ask you guys, like, because of how this election coverage went, would you guys be open to doing this again? Like, should this be something that we do kind of regularly on election servers, or this should only be like a one-time situation, considering that the next one just going to be run via popular vote?
Well, I'm definitely open to being a part of commentaries like these. I think it's hard on my, like, on an end of like not really knowing how campaigns have been going, because there's not much to talk about. I don't know context as well, but I'm still open to talk about results in the future for sure.
Oh, listen, you don't need to know anything to talk. Trust me. Trust me, you don't need to know anything to talk. And even if you make a mistake, you can always recorrect yourself. And even if you don't know if you made a mistake, someone else will help you and say, like, listen, so here with the data. And, you know, because listen, a lot of Americans aren't educated in a lot of areas when it comes to certain history and also election history. So we don't expect you to nearly understand or even know the historical significance of certain events within electoral past. So we don't really expect that of you. Neither have I expected that from myself. So don't be hard on yourself.
Well, pertains to Discord explicitly. In terms of current actual events, that's a different story.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's a lot that you can offer to the server, and a lot. I think you are very brilliant. I really am very appreciative that you
thank you.
joined the
It was
server.
a pleasant discussion with all of us.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think this is exactly what I wanted, because I felt last time I was doing this server, I was just by me, and no one else wanted to join, and it just felt like I was talking to a wall. So this was definitely a lot of fun. No, I absolutely think that this was definitely interesting, because it was definitely correlated directly to the, the approval rating and how it affected the race. And do you think that, like, the approval rating is everything, or do you think the incumbency factor, the approval rating, and candidate likability led to a landslide? Do you think that this was one of those effects, or do you think it was a happenstance of the perfect storm that led to this massive landslide?
Yeah, I think it's both approval, like obviously because you formed relationships both in and out of server, and I think also, you know, Skylar hasn't moderated themselves on anything really, and you know, you can't really win like that. You tend to piss people off, and I think sometimes it comes down to presidential attitude. You know, like sometimes obviously, you know, you've almost rage quit Chris, and if you made that decision and you stuck with it, if you were stubborn in your decision making and you didn't change your mind, you didn't have a change of heart, you wouldn't actually be here, or you'd still be covering the election, but you wouldn't have actually run in the general, because if you dropped out, it would have been a Republican versus Libertarian, because Leo said that we couldn't actually replace a Democratic president with the Republican vice president, Diego. So I think, you know, it basically every single event that could have curtailed your campaign. First of all, biggest thing how you could have lost. Like the worst thing that could have happened to you if it was just a Google form and no verification, then yeah, you know, Boone would have certainly rigged the election with or without me.
Mm-hmm.
Like that goes without saying. Like Boone would organize like people in real life to vote against you. But
yeah,
now
I don't even know how he had that. He's like a juggernaut that's beyond me even.
And somehow he leaked that, which is very interesting because obviously he kind of likes you in some way, because he wouldn't have leaked it if he didn't like you. You know, he would have actually just, you know, done it in secret, and you'd be none the wiser. And so, you know, you take those two events, him not being able to rig the election, and then also the fact that you didn't drop out as you said you would, And then the third thing also was the fact that, you know, Jeffrey Lee's base didn't show up, or Jeffrey Lee wasn't the candidate, so there was no crossover appeal, which clearly is a big thing in this server because a lot of the active people tend to be liberal, even though most of the server is Republican in terms of who they vote for online.
Right,
those
which
polls.
is interesting. Yeah, I noticed that too, which is interesting because, like, we have a lot of Republican, but yet you see tonight that doesn't seem to be the case.
Oh, yes. And those are really great points to make. In fact, as a side tangent, I've been calculating statistics in my home state of, surprise, South Carolina. And in the last 4 elections, I've noticed the closest, of course, have been when Barack Obama's been president, where Democrat vote has actually showed up. And I was curious just to see if we could ever be competitive. And for Democrat output, it would only be at the 80% margin as opposed to the 67% it was. And so I think that's kind of speaking to what you're saying about, you know, who's here, who's left to show up and vote in that capacity, and it being liberal is definitely supportive of that.
So Leo, I don't mean to cut you off for 1 second. Leo said that in the next election, swing states are going to be really important. I don't know if he means swing states in the sense that, like, our modern swing states, or the swing states from this election and the previous election. Is that important? That's the question that we're going to be answering soon. Is how is this going to affect presidential candidates going forward? Because clearly, it looks to me that a lot of candidates that are going to run, they're going to have to say nice things about me, the incumbent president, because in order for them to be able to get to where they need to be, they're going to have to kiss ass. Excuse me. You know what I mean? I'm not saying they have to, but I'm basically saying that if, you know, obviously there's a likability issue, right? It's either that they like me or that they didn't like Skylar.
True.
But it's also possible that they could be that they actually support a lot of my policies and didn't like Skylar. Also on the basis not only that he was far right, but also that he never mentioned any of his policy stances. And when he did, it was only once. He didn't show up for any presidential debates. He didn't do a rebuttal to the State of the Union address.
Yeah, so speaking to what Mike was saying about just being a stronger candidate in presence there, not just in, you know, being in the Discord, but also with actual policies to support that. I mean, that's reasonable to say.
I just think it'll be amusing on that point. Imagine if we did do a campaign trail scenario on this, because it'll be super RNG. It'll be like one guy drops out. Where does his votes go to? Do they go to Lee? Do they go to Chris? Does Chris stay in the race? Like, who's going to be the Republican candidate to beat Chris? So I don't know. You'd actually have to make several campaign trail scenarios for this. So one campaign trail scenario is like me against Chris. And then the other one would be Lee against Chris.
Game, the campaign trail.
Yes, yeah, you'd have to make 3 different scenarios because either me, Lee, or B could have actually been the candidate to face off against you.
This is true.
That is true. I definitely think that, like, it would have been really interesting how the map would have looked had just say you ran against me and didn't drop out. Because I definitely think that you probably would have had the likelihood chance of being a nominee straight out.
It's actually kind of amusing because it would have been a vote sync. Because I know, like, from my base where they are, and it's like, you know, 4 people. I don't know if all those 4 people live in Pennsylvania, but clearly a lot of them are my voters. So Pennsylvania would have been a blowout. Maryland would have actually gone Republican, which is interesting.
Which is why you had it red. But yeah, that you went blue.
Yes, and like Green Cat. Actually, we can bring up the projection while we're at it. You know, both my VP Green Cat and Silicon AI or Popcorn Town. He doesn't really comment all that much. They're both from Maryland, so that's already like 6 people in 2 states.
Yeah, and I have a question though, because like the thing that I want to know is, okay, if you have all those people, do you know how they actually voted? Because it doesn't seem to be that their vote had any sort of effect in Maryland.
Yeah, because I think J. Cole is actually from Illinois. So like there are all these different names being thrown about. So if you check the Illinois data, you probably see only one person voted for you there.
Right.
And that was him. So he actually won you the state of Illinois because I gave him a conscience vote, and he obviously prefers you because he's Democrat ideologically.
Wow.
Huh. That's interesting. So, how many crossover support did you were able to grab away from me and bring over to the other side? Because it does seem to be that there seem to be miles crossover support, at least in the states like Nevada, when it comes to like states like Pennsylvania. That only seem to be the two only really crossover states. Everything else, I kind of won, and I flipped Republican states. You only managed technically. You were running on and helping, and so does Diego. You guys were all running and trying to help Skylar, but you were running too late in the campaigning, and it felt like as if Skylar wasn't really active, and so it kind of like repelled. Every time you campaign, you repelled voters because it made Skylar feel as if he wasn't actually campaigning, and you guys were just doing the heavy lifting for him.
Yeah, and I mean, like, if you look at it this way, in terms of where my base went, because I told them to stay at home and give them a conscience vote, I mean, I would have to look at the statistics, but I think it was roughly half-half. Half went Republican, half went Democrat. And, that spoke to my appeal as a crossover candidate and why Lee had crossover appeal. So, my base is pretty diverse. It's a winning coalition, really, against any other candidate who isn't you, because you're an incumbent president.
And do you believe that if you were to say hypothetically you were on my ticket as the vice president, do you think that would have damaged me, or you think that might have helped me considering the fact of your coalition?
I think actually the Republicans would have voted for us to if you put me on the ballot. Yeah, they would have actually voted for us. Yeah.
Do you think that might have also repelled Democrats to not vote for me because of past election history and scandals that plagued your campaign and others?
Yeah, it's interesting because I thought actually a lot of Republican NPCs hated me more than the Democrats. Because I tend to be like really moderate. Like I've always been bipartisan, even from the first campaign. So I don't think I've actually pissed off many people who are Democrats. I can't actually think of a single Democrat, both in and out of server, that hates me, which is interesting because like I know like you get a lot of hate mail, which is unfortunate.
Yes.
But there's nothing they can do about it now. You're gonna retire as a 2-term president.
Yeah. Yeah, I was actually saying because if I was to lose against Skylar, I was going to run for re-election as a rematch campaign. I was going to run, but I think I'm going to probably retire, and I want to consider whether or not Senator Daddy USA is going to run. Because I think he will do quite well in the Republican primary just because of how well he did in Minnesota.
Yeah, winning by blowout margin.
Yeah, I mean, flipping a Biden district by 40%. I mean, more than 40%. That's unheard of for a Republican. That I don't know what leaning I identified as. I'll have to ask Lee that. But that was definitely a big shocker there. But also note as well, like we also had some fraud and stuff like that with them constantly doing write-in and stuff like that. Was part of the reason why Leo didn't include it in the first place was because people were writing things into the writing and weren't being serious when it came to voting. That's why he didn't put a writing campaign. Do you think that might have changed the ways had, just say for example, Leo added the ability to have none of these candidates or a writing campaign? Do you think that might have changed the race, or you think it still would have been mostly a blowout?
Well, I think it's actually interesting because everyone made their voting intention pretty clear for the most part. I mean, I was pretty hush-hush about my vote. I mean, Jeffrey Lee just said at the last minute, okay, let's vote for Skylar. And then there was a whole bunch of people who said they're not going to vote for anyone. Those same people who didn't vote for anyone in this election would have wrote none of these candidates. JC Eurovision, who was part of the anti-Chris vote in the Democrats. Frank Mervyn, who's another anti-Chris Democrat. And I think some of those people who would have like voted for Lee definitely went over to your side, like Teddy Roosevelt. Yeah, he voted for you probably 100%, I'm guessing, because he's active. I'm not sure if he would have picked Lee in the end. He told me that he voted Lee mostly as a protest vote to prevent a far-right Republican from winning the nomination.
Right. And obviously when he came in, that probably... I think if, let's say, Teddy Roosevelt was to come in earlier, and Teddy Roosevelt in this aspect is a Democrat, just say like Teddy Roosevelt was to come into the Republican primary, just say a couple of days earlier, he probably would have been a deciding factor in Maryland.
I think so too. Yeah. I mean, the issue is I think with a lot of the base, like let's look at some of the data. Texas. So like multiple people voted in Texas, right?
Yeah. So I'll go to the data for you right now. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, in which case then, if that one person in my base wouldn't, even if he voted Republican, it wouldn't have actually changed Texas.
No, because even if Texas in the last election when I won with 71.4% of the vote. In this election, I won and I increased the margin to 83.3%. So I got more support out of Texas than last time. So technically, even you having like support and getting people out and vote in Texas wouldn't be enough to flip Texas.
I know I had one person in California, so that would have been a tie, but that still goes to you.
Right. It still would have went to me anyway. That's why it wouldn't be a toss-up unless you had the majority. It's almost like the way I describe presidential elections, the way that anyone would be, it's like playing chess. You know what I mean? You don't know exactly where your candidate or your opponent is going to put his chess piece next. But only you can probably make the educated guess by doing it for him and running multiple simulations inside your head, guessing where they're going to put the chess piece next.
Yeah, indeed, definitely. And especially like when you got people, I'll be honest, like, I mean, there's some people on this Discord that aren't from America. And in which case, if they're not from America, they can essentially put their votes on any other state they want.
Yeah.
And that's a loophole that can be exploited to win California, for instance.
Right. And, that would make a lot of sense, but it wouldn't necessarily matter anymore because Leo said it's really based on the popularity vote. Which in this case, I probably would have won a lot more, most likely, with the popular vote. I would have wondered under, Leo's new map or new electoral system of how we elect new presidents going forward, whether or not I would have won by a bigger margin or less of a margin. That would have been a question that I would have liked to know. But that would have been really interesting to see, okay, if this scenario happened, if the exact outcome happened in the next election, how does that play out? Now, one thing I would wonder if Leo would even pursue in the future is, okay, just say we have a full map now. We have a full map. So does that mean that, okay, just say that the Democrat, won multiple states, right? But that mean the Republicans have to now go out in the next election and try to flip those states back into the Republican column and try to vote and try to like pick those states off again, because the data should be based off who won the previous state based on the party who previously won it. So just say a tie goes to tiebreaker instead of voting based on the 2020 data anymore. The 2020 data is from 2020. This is the new election. So technically, it could be based off this election to kind of keep it realistic according to how it would probably work out. Because you want the map to kind of theme and follow the partisan politics or the electoral history of the Discord server itself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, you've explained it really nicely, and I think it's going to evolve, and this provides a base for future elections.
Oh yeah,
I wanted to ask, I'm about to leave. It's been nice having this chat with you guys. You have one more announcement to make, don't you, President Christopher Oliva?
Oh yes. Minnesota Mike is going to become the next vice president.
Oh wow, that's dope.
Yeah, even though he voted against me.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah. So he is going to be the next vice president of the United States, and he's going to work alongside everybody. We are going to come up with a sort of a system to try to best benefit the United States and try to bring the United States back into the 21st century and try to keep moving forward. But we will also, as well, we're going to just go full steam ahead. I think we're going to go full steam ahead, despite the scandals that plagued Mike's campaign. We are going to try to fix a lot of those issues because Mike has turned around and said, listen, a lot of those scandals were accidental. They were not intended to be. Obviously, I do whatever I could to be able to play the politics of it all. But in the end, Mike it's bipartisan. We have always worked together, even in past presidential campaigns. He's a great candidate. He's a great guy. So he will become my next vice president. And so I do choose him as my vice president. However, we are going to fix a lot of the issues that plagues the campaign, like expanding and ensuring the electoral security of the system going into the next election, and many other issues that plague your campaign. Do you have any?
Indeed. So
What?
quickly, I'll just do my vice presidential speech.
Sure. Go ahead.
Thank you, President, for allowing me the opportunity to serve this great nation of ours. The reason why I'm willing to cross the aisle to work as your VP is that I've always pledged to be a bipartisan unity candidate. And in fact, between us two, we have always dominated the discussion within Leo Peridot. Within the first election, I wasn't able to rally the base, and you reached out to me to become your VP. At the time, I wanted to work for the Republican Party and ensure that I had a future within it. I'm pleased to announce that while I'm retiring from any future presidential run, I can cross the aisle and do good work with you. While I am socially conservative and we differ in this view, I understand that a part of politics is to compromise on our non-core values, such as economics. And indeed, I was laughed at by much of the Republican base for running a socially conservative campaign in moderation with fiscal liberalism. The reason why the Democrats have been so dominant within Leo Peridot is that they understand that you can't just fire up the base to win. You need to be able to reach across the aisle, as you once did to me. And I'm happy to announce that as your Republican VP, I'll be interested in working on the fiscal liberalism front by first of all expanding Medicaid. It's an issue that means a lot to me, and it is one of the reasons why I love John Bell Edwards as a Democratic candidate and would vote for him if he were to become president. It is true that to be pro-life, you can't just be pro-birth. And that's one of the great things that John Bell Edwards has done for his state of Louisiana. He's adopted children and he's become a great example to us all. And first of all, being pro-life is in three values. One of those is to be pro-life when it comes to abortion. We need common sense restrictions on the practice. And while I think a 15-week ban is going too far, I think we need to ban late-stage abortions in the third trimester. And that has the purpose of reverse codifying Roe versus Wade into law. It codifies Roe v. Wade into law as the founders of Roe v. Wade never intended for late-stage abortions and in fact banned them within the final trimester. I look forward to pursuing a pro-life agenda with you together on common sense restrictions that appeal to the majority of Americans, expanding fiscal liberalism including Medicaid to save people's lives, especially those for the disabled and elderly, preventing the rise of eugenics and abortion after birth, and also allowing for foreign policy. And in terms of domestic policy, what we also need to do is expand the Leo Peridot coalition to include third parties. And with you together, we'll work on picking a third party candidate that we'll both endorse and who will lead the future server into a brighter era that's free of conflict and puts bipartisan discussion above all.
Thank you. I loved your speech. That was very good. I do have a
Well
question though. What was your stance on abortion?
Okay, so I'm in favor of codifying Roe v. Wade into law, but in the inverse scenario, which is to say that we have a federal ban on the final trimester and we allow states' rights to go up to 6 months.
Okay. So basically what you're saying is that you support a woman's right to choose, but you don't support it being after a certain period of time, just say after 6 months into the pregnancy. Is that correct?
I understand that, unfortunately, despite my conviction that abortion is always wrong, that it's here to stay. And so the absolute right to an abortion is going to be protected by states on the state level. And the only thing that the federal government has power in regards to healthcare is to make the Hyde Amendment permanent and to end funding for abortions. Nationwide federal funding, that is.
You want to know how close you're... I don't mean to cut you off for 1 second. I'm just going to put the map right back up. There you go. So this is the map for you, Joe, and I lost it, but it went to 2020 data. So that is the result. Sorry, as you were saying.
All right, guys. Well, I mean, I'm glad to have showed my face. Glad to have met you in the flesh, even if remotely. I'd love to meet you in person one day, Christopher. When I
Yes.
go to New York, let's make it a deal. You know, I know someone in New York. I actually know 2 people in New York, so it'll be a nice, fun time to get together. And I'm proud to call you a friend. It's really nice that we can make friends in real life from online. It's a very low conversion rate, generally speaking.
Yes, that is true. It was a pleasure, and I had a great time. Thank you for joining me, and I really do appreciate it. We'll keep in touch, and we'll continue forward and see how we can bring the server forward into the next term.
Yes.
Amen. And you know, let's go on. Yes.
Oh, I was to say, and I'm wishing you both the congratulations as well, because I also have to get up in 5 hours for work. But I just wanted to wish you both the congratulations.
Well, thank you, all of you guys, and thank you, John.
All right. Take care.
God bless you
And
all.
thank you,
All right.
Mike.
Good night. Sweet dreams. Bye now.
Bye.
See you around.
See you around. Bye. And that is it, guys. So let me just. And thank you all. I hope you guys liked the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And I will put all the information below from all the data from like the polling firm. I'll also include the election data. So if you want to take a look at the Democratic primary, the Republican primary results, if you want to look at the election result data, if you're interested in the exit polling and all the approval ratings and everything like that, everything will be in the description below. And if you want to know more and how you can be a part of this server and also be a part of this simulation and just kind of have fun, also just comment in the description below, the comment section below, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. We also will have more information below. In the meantime, thank you all for joining and have a wonderful night. Bye. Surprised how Pennsylvania and Nevada went Republican while Ohio went blue. Yeah, I was also surprised too. That was actually shocking. All right, bye guys.